Be seated, please. I want to make a general inquiry without making any promises at this time. Do we have any Hardin County Tiger football fans? Wow. We might see if we can get you folks out there in the presence of guard. You understand you'll be isolated, but probably could put you on the visitor side. We play south side. If you want to go, there should be adequate place in this visitor side where we can put you without danger of exposure. All right, number 2. Saturday, Gainesville, Florida. Anybody know what's going on? They're actually going to play the game in Gainesville. They debated for a while. Comes on CBS at 2:30. Is there interest in watching that? Okay, several of you. Now what we'll end up doing on that, since it is a local affiliate, as long as the game's going on, the screen will be there. When they go to timeout or breaks, we're going to kill it just out of a extra sense of precaution to make sure there's not some flashes across the screen. There'll be a guard there to control it. If they flash something while they're doing action, which I wouldn't suspect because we won't be in trial, avert your eyes and we'll take care of it, okay? We're going to try to accommodate those things, all right? How many do we have on Hardin County football? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow, okay. I need to talk to our director of schools and get a little cooperation as well. All right, let's, y'all have a good lunch? Is that working out pretty good up there?
Yes, sir.
Rather do that than up and about, out? Okay. Saves a little time. We're actually starting about 10 minutes late, but a lot of times that happens. We're actually, the pace is moving along pretty good. I'm time compulsive, as you folks know, and so far I'm fine with our pace, okay? I want both sides to have an adequate opportunity to explore their theories of the case. I'm not going to try to cut them off, but I probably don't need to play poker from up here. They can probably read me pretty well as long as I've been doing it, so I think they'll keep it moving pretty good. Okay? Call your next witness for the state.
Brian Young. Brian Young.
Go ahead and face me, raise your right hand, please. It's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated. I want you to state your name for the record and spell first and last.
Stephen Brian Young. S-T-E-P-H-E-N. Young, Y-O-U-N-G.
As you probably figured out when you leaned up against that mic, it's hot, so you can talk into it and it should amplify you, okay?
Can you hear me, Mr. Young?
Yes.
Tell us, what do you do for a living?
I'm a commercial fisherman / restaurant owner.
You commercial fisherman, and you also got a restaurant, don't you?
Yes.
Where's your restaurant at?
Little Josh's in Parsons, Tennessee.
In Parsons. Do you remember back in April of 2011?
Yes.
Did you take any part in the searches for Holly Bobo?
Yes.
And why did you take part in the searches for Holly Bobo?
I knew the Bobo family some, and I also knew Drew, which was Holly's boyfriend at the same time.
Did you ever had any military experience or anything like that?
Yes.
What is that?
Army National Guard.
Were you ever called upon by law enforcement in this case to help them search, to go to certain places?
Yes.
Do you know Warren Rainey with the Highway Patrol?
Yes.
I want to ask you, did he have you on one occasion go in the woods behind Zack Adams' house?
Yes.
Tell me what you saw that day.
That day when we first got there, Warren had just got through talking to Zack.
All right, so Warren had gone to the house?
Yes.
And where were you when Warren was at the house?
We was on the outside perimeter. It was actually 6 of us.
6 of y'all?
Yes.
I mean, y'all in the woods or standing on the street?
We was standing in the woods,
Standing in the woods.
or kneeled in the woods actually.
Kneel down in the woods? Is it fair to say hiding?
Yes.
Did y'all have binoculars or anything?
Yes.
Did you see Mr. Rainey talk to Zack?
No. He was on the opposite side of the house.
What was the view that you had through the woods at that time?
Well, we couldn't see Zack at all at that time. We were just supposed to be covering the outside perimeter of the house.
Okay. Is that the back of the house or the side
The
of
back
the
of
house?
the house.
The back of the house? At some point, were you notified that Warren Rainey had left the house?
Yes.
How was that done?
Warren had called us.
Warren called y'all?
Yes.
And what happened next?
Actually, what we supposed to have done is seen the movements of Zack, watched the movements of Zack after Warren had left.
All right. So y'all were there because you wanted to see what Zack did after Warren left.
Yes.
What did Zack do after Warren left?
He come outside and went to the garage, got a vacuum out and started vacuuming up the black pickup.
Started vacuuming the car?
Pickup.
Pickup. Started vacuuming out a black pickup.
Yes.
And where was that black pickup?
It was in a shed, in a green shed down behind the house.
And was he doing that slowly, fastly, or how would you describe it?
Slowly,
Where did he get the vacuum from? Could you tell?
I couldn't tell.
How long did he vacuum that truck out for?
Approximately probably an hour and a half.
An hour and a half. And the whole time y'all were kneeled down in the woods.
Some of us was kneeled down, some of us was still actually just combing through the back of the, there's a big thicket, probably 20 to 30 acre thicket. And some of us are still in a movement back there trying to find them then.
There was a thicket to contend with too.
Yes.
After Zack got done vacuuming that car, that pickup out for an hour and a half, what happened next?
I had found a pair of surgical gloves and a water bottle
Is that just some stuff you found in the woods?
northeast, probably northeast of the house, the back of the house.
Let me ask you, did you ever see a mattress at the house?
There was 2 mattresses leaned up against the back of the house. Yes.
Two mattresses leaned up against the back of the house?
Yes.
Did you ever see Zack do anything with regard to those mattresses?
I didn't, but my partner did.
And was this at the same time? Was this before or after the vacuuming of the car?
It was after the fact.
After the vacuuming of the car?
Yes.
So you saw the vacuuming of the car, and then your partner saw whatever he saw afterwards
Right.
with regard to the mattresses.
Right.
You found some stuff in the woods?
I found a pair of surgical gloves and a water bottle.
And did you turn those in?
Yes, I had to meet Mr. Ramey at Teasers off of, I'm trying to think of the name of the road,
This area here, there's the interstate, is that right?
Sugar Tree Road.
Okay. There's the interstate, not far, is that correct?
Right.
There is you just said the name of it, Teasers. What kind of place is that?
It's actually a strip bar.
Strip club.
Right.
Close to Teasers, Close to Teasers, there's woods, is that right?
True.
If you go through those woods, you can eventually get to what?
Back to Zack's house.
To Zack's house. So all of this is close together.
Wooded area, yes.
And is this close to Holiday, Tennessee?
Yes.
And close to the interstate?
Yes.
Did you ever see the dirt or whatever that had been disturbed behind the house?
Yes.
Okay. And did y'all report that to Rainey?
Yes,
Were you there when Rainey checked it?
yes.
And you acknowledge it wasn't any sort of grave or anything like that?
I can't say that, I don't know.
Okay. Did you see Rainey find anything though?
Rainey wasn't actually with us. Rainey was at the teasers.
Later on?
Later on, he come off of Duck Farm Road and met us on Duck Farm Road.
Okay.
They was actually two dog teams with us.
I thought he said they were asking, I just want to make sure we're not getting hearsay.
He just said there were 2 dog teams with him.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Other than the hour and a half of vacuuming and whatever your partner saw, is that basically what you observed Zack Adams do that day?
Yeah, supposedly what it was, my partner had seen him.
No, you can't say which partner
I'm
saw
just
or
saying,
heard,
right.
okay?
We can hear from him. Okay.
Why I was going to give the gloves is what I'm
And all
saying.
this happened when Rainey left.
Right.
That's all my question.
All right, Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, these things you're calling surgical gloves, you're just talking about latex gloves, aren't you?
Yes.
White latex gloves,
Blue.
blue latex gloves, and you're aware that they sell those at Home Depot.
Yes.
People use them a lot if they're going to do something like paint,
Yes.
and you might use them if you're going to change the oil in your car.
True.
Okay. No further questions?
Done?
No further questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Young. You may be excused, or you can join us in the courtroom if you'd like. Or you can get out of here and get back on the river, okay? All right, next.
Matt Ross.
If I can read him, he can't wait to get out of here. It's not everybody's idea of fun to come into the courtroom, let me just put it that way. Face me, raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear that testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Be seated, state your name, spell your first and last.
It's Matthew Ross, MATTHEWROSS.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Mr. Ross, what do you do for a living?
I'm a special agent with the FBI,
And how long have you been doing that?
over 15 years,
Where are you stationed at?
at our Memphis headquarters city location.
Well, we're here to talk to you about something that happened pretty far away from Memphis. Okay?
Okay.
In April of 2011, were you involved in the investigation in the search for Holly Bobo?
Yes, I was.
And how is it that you became involved in that?
About a week after she had gone missing, and both the TBI and FBI had opened cases, our office in Memphis asked for volunteers to go to our Jackson resident agency or to Decatur County to help with the investigation.
Did you know this area at all or know that area at all?
I was somewhat familiar with Decatur County. Prior to being an FBI agent, I was a special agent with the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission. And so every summer we would spend, a week or half a week in Decatur County doing marijuana eradication.
I hope you don't know where Teasers is, do you?
I've heard of it.
On April the 23rd,
It used to have a worse name than that.
I think it was Bill Dundee's at some point. Too.
It was Bill Dundee's.
April 23rd.
And before you get the wrong idea, I just pass it on the highway going to other courthouses that I serve, okay?
April 23rd, 2011. Did you have occasion to speak with anybody involved in this Holly Bobo investigation?
Yes, I did.
What were you tasked with? What job did they give you that particular day?
Well, when I got there, we were basically, myself and several other agents and task force officers were told to just stand by to help out, possibly cover leads that had been generated from the case agents that were working the case. I guess that had been 7 or 10 days after she had gone missing. And so we were just waiting around, and at one point someone came up to me and gave me an assignment and said, hey, we need you to go talk to this person or that person.
And who was the person that you were supposed to talk to?
The first assignment I was given was to go talk to an individual by the name of Zack Adams.
Did you know Zack Adams at all?
No, never heard of him, didn't know.
Would it be fair to say that you had limited information at that time that you were going to talk to him?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, tell us what happened. Did you go talk to him?
I did.
Tell us what happened when you went to him.
Myself, one of our task force officers from Memphis, she was the Shelby County Sheriff's Deputy, Annette Cotton. I believe the Sheriff of Decatur County and a lieutenant from the Highway Patrol, I don't recall his name. We all,
I think we just met him.
okay, it might be him, I don't remember, it's been a while. We traveled to Zack Adams' residence, met him there and just asked him what he knew about Holly Bobo, if he knew anybody that knew her, if he knew anything about her disappearance, and where was he during the time she went missing.
Did you notice anything about Zack Adams on your visit?
Yes, as we talked to him, I noticed that he had some pretty visible scratches on his arms and knees, I think, or leg area.
And apart from noticing that, did you document it sort of any other way?
I took photographs. I asked him if I could take photographs of him and the scratches, and he said yes, I did.
Let me pass you a series of 4 photographs. May I approach, Judge?
You may.
Thanks, sir. Just look through them and tell me if you're familiar with what's pictured in each one.
Yeah, I'm familiar with these.
What are they?
These are the pictures that I took that day.
The pictures you took that day?
Yes.
Of Zack Adams?
Yes, they are.
And can you see the scratches?
Yes, I can.
If I would introduce those as the next number of exhibits, Sean.
I think we start with 57, so it'll be 57, 58, 59, and 60.
Publish this, Judge.
You may.
It's going to be on the screen behind you. So Zack Adams that day?
Yes, it was.
And this is over at his house, is that right?
That's correct.
That was exhibit 60. This is exhibit 57. What can I see here?
There's pretty visible scratches on the inside of his arm right there. There's a big scab or scar up at the top.
You see these linear scratches?
Yes, those two.
Are these the scratches that you noticed?
Yes, they are.
This would be exhibit 58. Which is actually a better picture if you see it in person, but is this another angle of these linear scratches?
Yes, it's a little bit far away. You can see how long they go down his arm.
And this would be his left arm, is that correct?
That's correct.
Maybe this will show up a little bit better now. It shows up a little bit worse. In person, You can see it better, is that right, Agent?
That's correct.
But on this overhead, linear scratches
That's right.
down this left arm.
Yes, that's correct.
And it looks like you also took a picture of his legs, is that right?
Yes, I did.
And I don't see much here. Did you notice anything on his legs?
Well, you can kind of see some bruising right up under the knee and on scratches a little bit on the top of the knee.
Okay. But here I don't see any of the long linear scratches that were on those arms. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you ask him about these scratches?
Yes, I did.
And did he tell you how he got these scratches?
He did tell me.
What did he tell you?
He told me that he had gotten the scratches after he'd been arrested by the police somewhere, I think it was Henderson County or one of the nearby counties, and that he had run through the woods trying to escape and had gotten cut up by a bunch of briars.
Okay. All cut up like briars or whatever.
That's correct.
While he was running from, what did you say?
He said the police.
Police. No further questions.
Ross?
So if Ms. Hunson needs a minute, I'm going to ask her to pass these pictures around anyway.
I was gonna use the pictures, so we'll just go ahead.
It just doesn't show up.
We'll publish them at the end of cross-examination.
I'm gonna try to stand over here where I can run the machine. Now, what kind of camera do you remember you used to make these pictures?
I believe it was my BlackBerry cell phone I used.
Does it focus better? Oh, this is right here. Okay, let's see. No. Let me try zooming. Maybe if I can zoom it a little, then I can tell if it's in focus. Does that seem to be the best in focus to you, Mr. Ross?
Yes, that's a little bit better.
Okay. And you certainly seemed very happy that day when he was talking to you.
He did have a smile on his face, yes.
Yes. And the pictures you have here, they're just of one arm, isn't that right?
I believe so. I may have taken a picture of the other arm, but I don't recall seeing it in there.
Okay. And is that the front of his arm or the back of his arm?
That's the front inside part,
Okay.
I believe, right
He's-
there.
Would you agree with me? He's got a skinny little arm there.
Well, I'm kind of skinny, so he was a little bit bigger than me, so
I'm
I
not.
guess. So I guess it's all relative, but sure.
Okay, let me see if I can zoom up on this stuff too. Now, of course, the picture itself is a little grainy. I mean, if you look at the actual picture itself, it's a little, I'd say digitized. It's got the little kind of square chunks of color in it. Would you agree with me about that?
Yes, this picture up here does, yes.
Okay. So it's not like it's taken with a 35 millimeter quality camera.
No, like I said, I took it with my cellular phone at the time.
But what we're looking at here, it seems like there's I'll kind of point it out to you. This is like a little bit of a round bump almost. Would you agree with me? With a
Yes.
scab in the middle?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and it looks like it's definitely been healing on the outside of the scab.
Yes, I would say that.
And then, and it just has a little bit of a scab left. The other ones, they're reddish pink lines, but they don't even have scabs left on them anymore, do they?
They don't appear to, no.
No. And this one actually shows it. Maybe this one shows it a little closer up. Does that one actually show it a little closer up?
Yes, a little bit.
So they're really more kind of like scars rather than fresh scratches. Is that right?
Well, they weren't old scars. They definitely would have happened recent
They're
weeks.
pinky scars, pink colored scars.
Yes, they were pink colored scars.
And you also took a step. You visited more than just Zack Adams, didn't you?
Yes, I think you mean throughout the day?
Throughout the day.
Yeah, I maybe talked to 2 or 3 other people.
Okay. They were just kind of dividing up work, and everybody was getting a few people to go out and try to find.
That's correct.
And if you'll help me here kind of figure out this Saturday, the April 23rd, that was a Saturday, wasn't it?
I think so.
If Wednesday was the 13th, then we kind of add some days there. You do your math and use some fingers, which I did. It's unfair because I was able to do it while I was sitting over
Okay.
there. It's Saturday's the 23rd.
That sounds right. I believe
Okay.
so. I believe I remember it was a Saturday.
Okay, and you were there, so this had been the second Saturday after she disappeared, is that right?
That would be correct, yes.
We can turn the lights back on now, I'm finished. Hold on to these, you want to other stuff. And so, and you actually filled out not even a formal report, but you just typed up some paragraphs about what you did and who you talked to.
Yes, I believe we filled out, at that time it was called a lead sheet or something to that effect.
A what?
It's called a lead sheet, I
Okay.
believe is what it was called. What we referred to it as.
Okay, well, your report here isn't on lead sheet. It's not on a lead sheet like worksheet. It's a typed written report. Did you type this
Right.
up?
No, I did not.
Okay. So you filled out a lead sheet somewhere.
Yeah, well, I filled out like the top of it, and I believe Officer Cotton filled out the bulk of it.
Okay.
And then I believe, I'd have to see it up close, but I believe those are her notes,
Okay.
her type notes.
So, but it would be accurate to say that your interview with him started at about 9:25 in the morning.
That's right, I remember it being in the morning. That's correct.
Okay. And Mr. Adams even gave you a brief summary of what he said he had done that day.
Yes, he did.
He said that he'd gotten up about 10 or 10:30 in the morning
That sounds about right.
on April the 13th, 2011. He said that there was no one in the house to verify what he had done, or what.
That's correct.
He said he and his brother Dylan had picked up a friend Shane, and then had gone to the Shell station.
That's correct.
He gave you his telephone number.
Yes, he did.
There's a phone number and an address. He even gave you a social security number, his driver's license number.
I don't exactly remember that, but I'm sure he did.
Okay. He disclosed to you that he had a girlfriend, Rebecca Earp, or former girlfriend.
Yes, he did.
Okay. He gave you consent to search his house.
He did as long as he was with me. He
Okay.
put that caveat on there. I'll just throw that out.
Right, he just wanted to walk around
Right,
with you
right.
while you searched it, but he
Right.
he allowed you to search his house.
He did? Yes.
And he even allowed you to search underneath his house in the crawl spaces.
Yes, he said we could look. We didn't actually crawl under there. We just opened the doors, took a look inside.
Matter of fact, you made a note that it didn't appear, let's see, it did not appear recently disturbed under the crawl spaces.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So looking at that, you chose not to go down. Is that?
Right on the outside of the there's small doors that swing
Right.
under the crawl space. It didn't appear to be disturbed. We opened the doors, took a look inside, didn't see anything.
Okay. And he voluntarily let you take pictures of his arms and legs. He wasn't under any kind of warrant regarding that. Is that
No,
right?
he consented to all that.
And you were there until 10:55 a.m.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
About an hour or so we were there.
Yeah, so 9:25 to 10:55, an hour and 20 minutes. 30 minutes. I have to use fingers. 30 minutes. Does that sound fair?
That sounds right.
And at the same time, then you also spoke to his grandfather, Dick Adams, and his brother, Dylan Adams.
Yes.
And they allowed you to look around Dick Adams' house also.
I don't believe we looked in his house.
But you would have been invited to. I mean, they didn't prevent you from doing that.
I don't know that we asked.
Okay. And no further questions?
Anything else?
No questions, just publish these exhibits.
All right, step down, you're free to go, thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
Bailiff, you'll start those with the jury, they can pass those among themselves. Let's get your next witness while they're doing that.
Chris Hill.
Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear that testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Be seated. State your first and last name and spell them for the benefit of the court reporter.
It's Chris Hill, Chris-Hill.
Okay, let's hold up just a minute, let them finish passing the photos, and then okay, direct examination.
Probably sat longer while they were looking at the pictures, and you're gonna have to sit for this, but where, your name again?
My name is Chris Hill,
And where do you work?
work at Natchez Trace State Park.
I want to ask you about April the 4th of 2011, okay?
Okay?
8 or 9 days before the 13th, which is the day that Holly Bobo disappeared,
Okay.
okay? On April the 4th of 2011, did you have occasion to come in contact with Zack Adams?
Yes, I did.
And whereabouts were y'all?
But it was a traffic stop on Highway 114 in the park.
Was it a routine traffic stop? I mean, did it go routinely?
It did not.
Okay. At some point, what did Mr. Adams do?
He fled on foot.
Was he pursued?
He was.
And was he arrested?
Yes, he was arrested.
Did you have occasion to observe him before he took off running?
Yes, I did.
And did you have occasion to observe him face to face, body to body, after he was arrested?
Yes.
I want to ask you, after that arrest, okay, on April the 4th of 2011, did he have any long linear scratches down his left arm
No, sir.
that weren't there?
No, sir.
No further questions.
Okay, now, on April the 4th, 2011, this whole incident began because there was a tree down, power lines down due to a tree in the state park. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
And you were actually there assisting some people with traffic and trying to direct them to get around the power lines, weren't you?
We were, yes, I was stopping the traffic while I worked on trees.
Okay, and then suddenly this white car comes up, and do you remember specifically what happened next?
Remember the vehicle drove down the wrong side of the road, past the cars I had stopped at a little bit of high rate of speed, and got to the tree and turned around. I stopped at the vehicle as it was coming back out then.
Okay, so what happens is this car, and let's be clear, do you remember what kind of car Mr. Adams was driving?
It was a pickup truck. Without my notes, I don't remember from 6 years ago the make or anything.
Did you review this before you came today?
It's been a week or so since I've looked at it.
Okay, so if I told you you put down that it was a white Nissan pickup truck,
That,
you even specifically put down that the tag was 574CBJ.
okay.
That would have been fairly accurate in your report, wouldn't you assume?
Yes,
Okay. I mean, you wouldn't have a habit of putting down a brand and a color of pickup truck if it wasn't something you had observed.
right.
Okay. So this white pickup truck kind of comes up and sees you stopped on the side of the road, directing traffic, and he zips into the ongoing traffic lane, passes you, tries to speed on down, and then suddenly realizes he's blocked and can't get past the power lines. Is that what happened?
Well, he came around a whole line of cars. I was at the front of the line. There was probably a half a dozen cars he came around to get to where I was.
So clearly this person was driving erratically
Yes,
and sped by a police officer.
yes,
And that's when he realized he had to turn around and come back is when you pulled him over.
correct.
And at that point then you found there was a camouflage bag on the floor of the car,
Yes,
and you picked up the camouflage bag to see what was in it.
yes,
And by bag, it's just a little, is it a drawstring bag with materials in it?
it was like a fanny pack.
Okay, fanny pack.
Yes,
So you pick up this little fanny pack, and you're getting ready to open it to see what's in it. Mr. Adams rips it out of your hands and takes off running through the woods, doesn't he?
yes,
Clearly, whatever was in that bag, he didn't want you to see it, did he?
correct.
And as he's running through the woods, he's unzipping the bag and throwing things out of the bag.
Right.
And so you, at this point, are required to hightail it right after him and
Right.
try to catch him. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Did you know Mr. Adams before this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you're chasing after him. You catch him, don't you? You
Yes.
catch
yes,
up to him?
Yes.
You had to tackle him to get him to the ground, right?
I shoved him to make him go to the ground.
You shoved him to the ground. And then, I mean, it was a pretty physical arrest at that point, isn't it?
Well, then he went down fairly easy. He tried to scratch at my hand after I got him down for just a second or two before he calmed down.
He tried to scratch at you?
At my hands, yes.
Like with his fingernails?
Yes,
Okay. And so at that point, and you're doing this in the woods, right? He's not running down the road.
right,
It's through the woods.
right.
Okay. And do you remember what color shirt he had on?
No, I do not remember.
Do you remember what, like, long sleeve, short sleeve, what it looked like?
I do not remember.
Do you remember what kind of pants he had on?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then at that point, you handcuffed him and you arrest him.
Correct.
And that white pickup truck that he was driving, that Nissan pickup truck, it got impounded, didn't it?
As I recall, the Henderson County Sheriff's Department was there as well, and I think they took an interest in the truck.
Okay. So he didn't get to drive that truck home that day.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, after you had physical, you kind of went full hands-on with Mr. Adams, right?
Okay.
Pushing him to the ground. Did you fill out an incident report about the physical contact you had with him?
That was included in the incident report for the whole event.
So, under your department regulations, you're not required to fill out a special physical contact report when you have full hands-on contact with a potential arrestee?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you didn't fill out anything other than just this arrest report and what happened right here, isn't that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Under what conditions are you required to fill out a full hands-on report?
If there was an injury or if we had to use some type of a weapon,
Okay. And then that goes in your record too, doesn't it?
yes.
Okay. So you would prefer not to have those filled out, wouldn't you?
It really would make no difference to me. It's
No? You can have 1 minute.
Just real quick. Talked about impounding the truck, right? Say something about that?
As I recall, the local sheriff's department talked about it, and I believe it was released just a day or two later.
It was released just a day or two later.
That's as I recall it.
Your Honor, I object to him speculating. If he knows, that's one thing, but if he's just speculating, I object to that testimony.
May I ask him?
You know,
Are you just guessing, or is this something you've checked on for me?
Just going off my memory.
On your memory?
Yes.
Okay, so you're not just guessing.
Right.
Are y'all in the business of seizing cars as park rangers?
Our department does not typically seize cars. Usually we hand those cases over to the sheriff's department to take care of.
And then the car is released.
Yes.
As a police officer, do you try to take note after you arrest somebody, especially if you've had to put your hands on them, as to their physical condition?
Absolutely.
Why do you do that?
Because don't want any chance of any kind of contamination between any kind of bodily fluids they might have and ourselves.
Okay, so you're looking for blood, whether or
Right.
not blood's been transferred?
Exactly.
Okay. How about to ensure the person doesn't claim you did something that you didn't do?
Right.
I mean, do you try to protect yourself too?
Yes. Yes.
And so if you had seen bloody linear scratches, is that something you would have taken note of?
Absolutely.
But they weren't there.
Right.
I do that follow-up.
okay.
I'm going to ask you about this truck now. You said Henderson County Sheriff's Department is the one that came and impounded the truck. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember specifically who the registered owner of that truck was?
I don't remember the name. I believe it was Mr. Adams' grandfather.
Okay. And so, how is it that you happen to remember that?
It's in my mind.
Okay. Was that something that you had discussed with the district attorney? Did the district attorney tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. But you weren't involved because you're a park ranger, you wouldn't have been there when the truck was released.
Correct.
And actually, you don't even know where it was. Do you know where it was towed to?
It would be speculation.
Okay.
All right.
So no further questions.
Done? All right, thank you, Mr. Hill, you're free to leave if you'd like. Call your next.
Christy Cleany.
That last name.
Cleany. Cleany.
Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God.
Yes.
Be seated. State your name first and last, and spell it, please, for the benefit of the court reporter.
Christy Cleany, Chrisstee, CL.
E-E?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Clenney.
Sound like there's a lot of E's in your name.
Yes.
Christy with 2 E's.
Yes,
I'd written down I's.
I know, I do it too.
it's happened a lot.
What do you do for a living, Ms. Cleany?
I'm a RTI and testing coordinator.
What's that mean?
Well, I've been in the school system teaching for 20 years. Now I help with response intervention and the testing and data, along with some other jobs.
What schools have you taught at around here?
Parsons Elementary School, and I was the Learning House pre-K. I was a pre-K teacher for 10 years, and now I'm at Decaturville.
April of 2011. Where were you living?
I was living on Markletown Road in Darden.
Myrickletown Road?
Yes, sir.
And it's in Darden.
Yes,
A few miles from Parsons.
yes,
Are you familiar with the street Swan Johnson?
yes, sir.
Does Myrickletown run into it?
Yes,
All in the same little neighborhood?
yes.
Are the roads big and wide, or are they small?
They're narrow.
Are the roads frequent traffic all the time, or not?
No, not a whole lot of traffic.
Something notable or strange happened to you one morning.
Yes.
All right. Well, tell us what you were doing.
Okay, I'd been recovering from neck surgery, so I was out of work for 6 weeks, and I've been walking every morning, somewhere between 7:30 and 8:30 every morning. And so, after a few weeks, one morning, I was walking, and I would always walk to Swan Johnson Road, and back.
Walking the neighborhood?
Yes, I would walk on Myrickletown Road to Swan Johnson Road, and I would stop there and go back to my house, and I would usually do that about 3 times because that was about 3 miles. And that was part of my rehabilitation for the neck, is what he wanted me to do. And so one morning I walked to Swan Johnson. I was on my way back, and I just heard a loud truck, and so I turned around, and there was one idling on Swan Johnson Road, and I heard it.
At this point, let me interrupt you. At this point, is that anything particularly strange?
Well, I mean, I wasn't alarmed at that moment. I mean, I just turned around. I mean, I heard it is why I turned around. And, you know, I like to get out of the road completely when cars are coming up and down, so I was just kind of looking backwards. And then it sat there for a few seconds, and that was kind of weird to me because I continued to hear it. And then
Where was it at, like physically?
it was physically like at the very end of Swan Johnson Road where the stop sign was.
And do you know the Bobos? Do you know Karen and Dana Bobo at all?
Yes,
Do you know where they live?
yes.
How far away from their house were they living?
I mean, it's probably, I'm not sure, but it might be a half to 3/4 of a mile from that
Okay.
that stop sign.
Less than a mile, a
Yes.
half to
Right.
3/4.
Right. I never did continue. I never walked down that road all the way. I would just walk to the edge of it. But I know that they live just not very far down that road.
Okay, so your health walk, rehabilitation walk, was from your house up Mirakletown until it hit Swan Johnson.
Right.
And the Bobos live a little bit up Swan Johnson.
On the left, yes.
All right, the car's idling there. It's a loud. What kind of truck did you say?
It was a white. I didn't register what kind. It was a full-size white truck,
Okay. Pickup truck or like a SUV?
a pickup truck.
Pickup truck. Okay. What happened?
And so then it turned right, and it was going really slow, and I just, kept walking straight ahead. And then I heard it turn around. I knew where they turned around at. It's probably at Box Road is what I was figuring. But I could hear it. It was loud enough that I could hear it turn around. And I thought, oh, that truck's coming back. And I still wasn't real alarmed, but I thought it was weird because it had idled by so slow. And I had a hoodie on. And then it came really slow back. And I just kind of kept my head straight and walking.
At this point, were you alarmed at all?
I was a little bit thinking, what are they doing? Because I'm used to seeing the same vehicles at that time. People are going to work, or the same people that you usually see coming back. It's not, you don't see a whole lot of new vehicles, and people don't just kind of cruise around that early in the morning, especially somebody, a young man or something. So
You don't have tourists driving up and down Mirakletown Road
No,
or Swan
no.
Johnson, do you?
no, it's not. It's not the happening place.
So this truck's coming back at you?
Right. And so then I am starting to, think this is kind of weird. But then when I heard it turn around again at Swan Johnson Road, I really did start thinking, okay, now, what should I do,
You had heard this thing idling there at Mirakletown and Swan Johnson. You had heard it turn around at what you're guessing is Box Road.
I was guessing that that's where you turn, because there's not many turnaround places. It's narrow and there's
And then
not.
you've heard it turn around again.
Yes.
How about now? You starting to wonder about
Yes,
this?
I was getting really alarmed, and I was even thinking about, would I go out into the woods? What would I do? I mean, I was actually thinking about what would I do if
You're
something
walking by
happens.
yourself
Yes,
with a hoodie on.
yes. I had a red hoodie on. I remember exactly what had on.
All right, what happened next?
And then he drove really slow, and he actually looked over and he was looking like out his window to talk to me, and he said, "Did I scare you?" And I was just like, "No, I'm good." And then he said, "Well, I didn't mean to scare you." And he said, "I thought you was a girl that I knew that lives around here." And he said her name. And then I was just like, "No, I don't know her," or I don't know. And then he kind of laughed and he's like, "Well, did I scare you?" And he said, "Well, I didn't mean to scare you." He kind of laughed or chuckled, and then he went on after that.
As a result of that, what did you do?
I texted my husband at the time and told him that something really weird just happened with a white truck. And then he called me whenever he got a chance, and I told him the story of it, and I just said it wasn't your normal little, "Hey, I thought you were somebody else." And so he got me some mace that day to start taking. And my dad actually had brought me a gun he had, but then he also bought me one that he thought would be better to take.
But you made it home safe that day?
Yes, I did.
Were you aware that Holly Bobo was kidnapped on Swan Johnson April 13th, 2011? Were you aware of that?
Yes,
Around 8 o'clock in the morning. Were you aware of that?
yes.
Would you have been walking on a weekday or weekend?
I always did on the weekdays for sure, and I did a lot of weekends also. But I would plan to walk after everybody left for school and was out the door, and I thought most of the traffic to school was gone. So
And how long before was this compared to when Holly was taken?
it was days before. I don't know. I've said it's been anywhere between several to 10, 7 to 10 or 12 days. It was within that time period.
Okay. So you're certain it wasn't the day before, for instance?
Oh, no, it wasn't. It was
It
not.
was a week, say 7?
I'm thinking it was past a week. I'm not positive then on the exact days because really, I just didn't think about trying to remember what day it was. I just, I wish I would have.
So when did this strange incident, when did it sort of come to light afterwards?
Well, when I heard about that, and I had told my coworkers about the white truck also at the pre-K. I was working in the pre-K, and they had mentioned, a couple of them was like, "What about that white truck?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. There could be a connection," and so because we just heard about it that day, but still that was like it had just come out like she's missing, and I think a lot of people were still thinking, well, she's going to be found, really quick is what we were all praying for. And then when we got home, my husband and I, we had talked about it. And that morning there was a roadblock at the end of the road the next morning. And he had mentioned to the police officers or whoever was there at the end of the road about the white truck. And so they had, whenever I got up there, I told them about it also.
So after Holly's taken, a day, 2 days, did you remember?
It was, we talked about that day, but it was whatever day the roadblock was, which I'm not positive exactly
So
when it
after
was.
she was taken, there were roadblocks at various places?
Yes.
All right. And so you got to this roadblock, and did you tell the policeman or whoever about this?
Yes.
All right, and what did he tell you to do?
He said they'd be contacting me.
So you gave him your information?
Yes.
Was your, is it ex-husband now?
Yes.
Was your husband with you then?
He was in the truck in front of me, so he wasn't with me when I gave that information, no.
Okay. Y'all were driving?
Separately, yes, because
Separately.
he was going to a different place than I was, different school.
Gotcha. Did the investigators get in contact with you?
Yes.
And what happened once they got in contact with you?
Well, that day, I'm almost positive it was that day, but I'm not 100% sure because they brought pictures to the pre-K and asked me to come out and look at them. And I think it was the TBI that came.
Okay. And did you see the man from the truck in those pictures they brought to you?
No, I didn't.
Okay. What happened next?
And they said that they'd be contacting me about coming to the police station to look at more pictures of maybe out of the inmate lineups or whatever inmate.
Did you go to the police station and look at different pictures?
Yes, and I had my husband at the time meet me there, and he went with me.
Okay, so you and your husband.
Yes,
Did y'all meet with police officers there?
yes.
And you said you looked at different pictures. Did you recognize anybody?
No, I didn't know who anybody was.
You didn't know who anybody was?
Right.
Did you, were there any pictures that caught your attention? How about that?
Yes, I pointed to one that I thought looked like the guy that was in the truck.
Okay. And in fact, as you looked through a series of pictures, even after you thought that was the guy,
Yes.
and describe how you kept on coming back to that one picture.
Well, I was looking through it and I'm like, yeah, he looks like this. And then I said, I continued to look and there was other ones that had that kind of look or the same color hair. And I was going, yeah, these have that look too. But then I said, going back to the front, that one was the one that I thought looked mostly like him.
And who was that person?
Well, and I wouldn't have known it, but my husband was there with me and he said,
She can't say what her husband said.
okay.
At this point, may we approach Your Honor?
Did you say your husband recognized the guy? in the picture?
Yes, sir.
So he was there with you, standing next to you?
Yes.
What was his name?
My husband's name? Timothy Cleany.
Timothy Cleany? That's the church.
Cross.
So your husband is Tim Cleany,
Yes.
is that what you said?
Yes.
Ex-husband.
My ex-husband, yes.
Sorry, yes. Now, you gave this report, the roadblock, if there's a report that says that this was on April the 19th, 2011, when you gave this information at a roadblock, does that seem right to you?
Ma'am, I have no idea, but I'm not
Five-
sure exactly how many days.
5 or 6 days after Holly disappeared?
I'm not sure.
Within a week of the time she disappeared?
I would think so, but again, I just don't have any idea exact how many days, what day that was on.
Okay, so your memory's kind of faded since then?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time, you said that the person was driving a full-size white pickup truck. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
Okay. At one point, you said it was a nicer model pickup truck. Do you remember
I
saying that?
don't remember. I don't remember exactly what all I said, to be honest with you on that. I don't remember what I
Okay.
said on that.
Do you remember now that it was a nicer full-size pickup truck?
I just remember it being a white full-size pickup truck, yes.
Okay. You remember saying that the man you saw weighed between 180 and 190 pounds?
I just don't remember.
Okay. You don't have a memory now of how much that person weighed, do you? Is that
No,
what
I
you're-
have a look of what they look like, but I don't remember a weight.
Right, but the look that you have now, what this person looked like, is after you've looked at lots and lots of photographs. Would you agree with me?
Are you talking about at the time
No,
or now?
the look you have in your memory now is after you have looked at photographs. Clearly, your memory now is after you've looked at photographs.
Yeah. I
Yes,
think so.
and you've thought about it a lot in your head. You've had a lot of thinking about it and what was trying to remember.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember saying that it had happened 2 to 3 weeks before the day of the roadblock?
No, I don't remember exactly what I said on the time.
Okay. If it would have happened 2 weeks before the roadblock, and the roadblock, well, if it happened 2 weeks, you said, tell me again what you said earlier about how close in time it was to when Holly disappeared.
It was several days. I don't know exactly. I'm estimating, so this is not a fact, but I would think it would have been anywhere between a week to 2 week period of time, you know. I mean, I have averaged it was like 10 or 12 days, you know, but I didn't know for a fact.
Okay. But if the report said the 19th, that's probably right, because there would be no reason for them. You didn't report this more than once to the roadblock, right?
Correct.
So if there's a report that says it's on the 19th, is when you gave this information at the roadblock, that would most likely be correct.
I would think, whatever, yeah, I mean, I'm not disputing.
Right, okay, so you're not disputing that?
No.
Okay, and if at the time you said that this incident with the white pickup truck had occurred 2 to 3 weeks earlier, your memory then was certainly better than your memory is now.
I mean, I would think it would be too.
Right, so that was probably accurate information from you at the time, 2 to 3 weeks earlier.
I can't imagine me saying 3 weeks, but I don't, you know, I can't imagine me saying 3 weeks earlier. Because that would have been way past what I would think that it would have been.
Do you remember?
I don't ever remember saying 3 weeks, as a matter of
You
fact.
don't? Okay. Do you remember saying that the person was in their early to mid-20s?
Yes.
And do you remember saying light brown hair?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Brown hair, yes.
Well, do you remember saying light brown hair?
I don't remember saying, like, specifying light brown hair, but I remember saying that there was brown hair, yes.
Okay. Do you know Lori Kennemore?
No,
No.
I don't.
No further questions.
Anything else, Mr. Williams? All right, you can step down, you're free to go.
Let's try Timothy Cleany.
All right?
Your Honor, I'd like to approach you.
Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear testimony about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Have a seat. State your first and last name and spelling for the court reporter, please.
My name is Timothy Cleany, Timothy Clenney.
What kind of job do you have?
Currently,
Yes, sir.
I am a independent insurance agent.
Back in 2011,
I was a school teacher.
what grade did you teach?
In 2011, I was teaching middle school, 7th or 8th, not sure exactly which one.
2011, were you married to Christy?
Yes,
Did y'all work at the same school or different schools?
different schools.
Do you remember a morning when she called you and told you something strange had happened?
Yes,
Is that something y'all talked about?
absolutely.
Do you remember her reporting that to law enforcement?
I remember roadblocks being set up along different roads to basically monitor people coming in and out, and we had talked about should that be something that should be brought up to them, and we said absolutely. So yeah, we kind of, in one of those times is when we talked.
After that, did you have occasion to go to a police station with her?
Yes,
Do you remember what station it was?
it was the Sheriff's Department, Decatur County.
Decatur County? And what happened once y'all got there?
We went through mug shots basically of current and past inmates and things of that nature, and we'd go through, and of course, having been a teacher for so long, I knew almost everybody in there. And when it came to that particular one,
That doesn't mean you're a bad teacher, though.
right. Law of averages. So when it came to that particular person, she pointed to him, and I was naming off several of them, and I said the name of the individual. She said it was a Bill. She didn't say that is the person that I have seen, but she said that fits the description.
Was there a picture she kept on coming back to and back to?
Yes,
And who was that person?
it was Zack Adams.
That's interesting.
Props.
Yeah, Your Honor, first I'd ask for Jinx material. I didn't even know this person was going to be a witness.
Got anything on him?
We do not, Judge.
All right.
Well,
No?
I'm going to ask if they have notes. Surely they've interviewed him. If they have notes of that, there's some case law that says if there's no other materials, we can have notes.
We can approach, Judge, if you feel like.
Is she in the courtroom?
I told her she could be excused.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure she wasn't sitting in the courtroom.
I didn't,
Okay.
she wouldn't have been allowed in, I don't think, because they're still at the door and we're observing, not coming in except during.
Sorry, Mr. Cleany, I'm just trying to read through some papers here. Are you aware that your ex-wife had initially identified a person named Jonathan Martin as being the person that she saw driving the truck that day?
No,
Do you know Jonathan Martin?
I don't recognize that, no.
Okay. Are you aware that she'd initially said that the person who she saw was in his mid to early 20s?
I don't remember that part.
Are you aware that she said that the person she initially saw had light brown hair?
I don't remember that as well.
Are you aware that she initially said the person she saw weighed between 180 and 190 pounds?
I don't remember that.
And how many pictures did you look at that day?
Maybe in the 20s. I don't remember the exact number, but several.
And when she came back to that picture, she kept coming back to it, but initially she did not say that is the person. She said that looks like the person, didn't she?
She never said that is the person.
She said that looks like the person.
Right.
Okay. No further questions.
Anything else? All right.
Your Honor, at some point I'd like to recall Ms. Cleany. There's some additional questions I'd like to ask her, so I'd like for her to remain under subpoena.
I've already discharged her. Maybe we can issue another
Okay,
subpoena.
I'll get a subpoena.
All right. I don't know how much contact you have, but you're not to discuss your testimony with your ex-wife. You understand that?
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. He can step down. We're going to take a recess. Let's see if she's left. If she hadn't, then we'll tell her she remains under subpoena. All right, be seated, please. The defense counsel indicated they wanted to take up some matters outside the presence of the jury before they come back in. Yes.
Your Honor, Jim Simmons on behalf of Zack Adams. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to strike the testimony of Tim Cleany in that he was not disclosed prior to trial as being a witness, and that then we were unable to properly prepare for his cross-examination, and also he testified to what we would characterize as 404B evidence.
That's what?
404B, and we were unable to characterize that.
All right, motion overruled. All right, let's bring the jury in. I said earlier they talked.
With the state that witness was not disclosed. We've had.
He said he first talked with him yesterday afternoon very briefly.
Correct.
And then maybe again this morning. So they've disclosed everything they could disclose, basically.
Okay, again, Your Honor, for the record, I move for mistrial.
All right, overruled. Oh, I'm going to go into a very brief description of Jinx material, Jinx. One of the jurors wanted to know what is a Jinx witness. So here we go back to law school again, okay? Ready? And it's actually J-E-N-K-S. That's based upon a Tennessee case, State of Tennessee versus Jinx. It's something lawyers cast about all the time. They're used to using it. But Jinx material is essentially if someone has given a statement, made a statement, whatever, the other side is entitled to view that. Legally, it's required once that witness has given testimony, the other side's entitled to get it and review it. Usually, it is disclosed prior to coming into court to move a little quicker. I try to encourage that. So it means, and it applies equally to both sides, okay? So you might hear the state, if the defendant chooses to put on proof, they might ask for Jinx material. But it's just, if that person has given a statement, the other side's entitled to examine it to make sure there's nothing prior inconsistent or something like that. So, all right, another little lesson in law. Call you next.
Rebecca Earp.
We don't need this part of the record, do we?
Yes, Your Honor.
Present.
You asked.
It will be the last numbered exhibit. I don't want to get our numbers out of whack. Well, I guess we can. But I will read verbatim every letter on this. Jury question. J is capitalized, Q is capitalized. What is a JINX witness? Question mark. You still need?
Yes, please.
All right, exhibit 30 what? 50 what?
61.
61. Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Come up here, be seated. State your first and last name, and spell it for the court reporter.
Rebecca Earp,
as comfortable as you can. You'll be there for a minute. Okay, Ms. Hardy? Is this a day that you've been looking forward to?
No.
Tell us who you were in relation to Zack Adams.
I was his girlfriend for 2.5 years.
His girlfriend for 2.5 years. Were you his girlfriend around the time of April 2011
Yes.
when Holly Bobo disappeared?
Yes, sir.
Describe for me your relationship with Zack Adams around that time.
Around that time, it was awful. After his grandmother passed, he got on morphine.
About when did his grandmother pass?
I don't remember.
He got on morphine? Was he on any other drugs as well?
Meth.
Meth. And why did that make the relationship awful?
His temper.
Did you back then live with him or not? You have to speak so everybody can hear.
Yes, I did live with him.
And where did y'all live at?
At his house by his grandfather's.
He has a house other than you. Does anybody else live there at the time?
No, sir.
His grandfather's, that house close by?
Yes.
Right across the driveway.
Yes.
And who lived in his grandfather's house?
Dylan.
And did the grandfather live there too?
Yes.
And who is Dylan?
Dylan is his brother.
Did you get to know Dylan?
My man knew him, knew of him.
Knew of him? So was Dylan around Zack and his friends a lot?
Off and on.
And how was Dylan treated?
Zack was pretty much bossy towards him, I guess.
Was it bossy?
Bossy.
And how were you treated back then in April of
Your
2000?
Honor, I'm going to object. We have 404B evidence I'm concerned about, and we filed a motion on that, Your Honor. I request any kind of hearing before we go into anything.
Well, maybe I could phrase the question better. I'm not asking about any specific instances of anything that happened, just the general tenor of their relationship in the preceding days. Did that make sense to you, what I just said, Rebecca? I'm not asking you about anything or things that happened. I'm just asking about the days before Holly went missing. What was the relationship like? How were you being treated?
I just pretty much worked, came home, sleep, couldn't keep up with him, so I was just doing my thing.
Had you broached the idea of him of breaking up?
Yes.
Had you tried to leave him?
Yes.
Again, I'm not asking about specific incidents, but what was his attitude to you were trying to leave?
He would always talk me into coming back, and he would be very stern or threaten me.
Stern and threatened you.
Objection, Your Honor. I object to the phrase threatened.
She said stern approach or something there.
Stern.
She says,
Stern. Overruled.
in fact, on the very day before Holly went missing, did you try to leave him again on that day?
I was at my mother's that day.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean physically with him or not. Did you try to leave him as boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yes.
Did you try to break up with him?
Yes.
And was his response the same?
Yes.
And this would have been April the 12th of 2011.
Yes.
The time that he was on morphine and meth. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Who else did he hang out with? Did you know Shane Austin?
Yes, sir.
you ever observe Shane Austin to be involved in meth or morphine?
Yes, sir.
Frequently or infrequently?
He was more on pills.
He was more on pills?
Yes, sir.
Do you know Jason Autry?
Yes, sir.
Do you know, you've already said, Dylan Adams? Were these people that would hang around Zack Adams?
Yes.
Would they come to his house?
Yes.
Would Zack go to theirs?
Yes.
Did you know where Shane lived?
Yes.
And I'm not asking you the address. Did you know what street he lived on?
It's by Yellow Springs Church.
By Yellow Springs Church.
Mm-hmm.
And is that close to Zack's?
Yes, across the highway.
The highway's Interstate 40.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Holiday, Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
April the 12th, 2011.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that night, April the 12th, 2011.
He talked me into coming and staying with him.
I couldn't quite hear when you first.
He taught me to come stay with him that night.
You said he talked you to come in?
He talked me into coming to stay with him that night, so I did.
So that day, break up,
Mm-hmm.
but that night, where were you?
His house.
Do you remember what time you arrived at his house?
No, sir. It was late though.
Late.
Mm-hmm.
When you got to his house, was he there?
Yes.
Was there anybody else with him?
Not that I remember.
Did y'all interact with each other late when you got to that house?
We talked a little bit, but then I went to bed and he stayed up.
Did he ever come to bed that night?
Not that I remember, no.
What woke you up that morning?
Zach,
And what was he doing to wake you up?
he kissed me on the forehead and he said he was going to haul off scrap.
And about what time was this?
It was anywhere from 6 to 7:30.
6 to 7 or 7:30?
Mm-hmm.
Early in the morning.
Yes, sir.
Did you stay in bed or did you get up?
I stayed in bed and slept for a little bit longer.
Do you remember what his demeanor was when he told you he was going to go sell scrap?
Yes, sir.
How was he acting?
Fine.
What do you do that morning after he leaves?
I go back to bed for about 30 minutes and then I had to get up, get ready, go to work because I had to be there at 9.
Do you get up and get ready?
Yes.
And do you go to work?
Yes.
And where's your work?
Joe's video in
And-
Parsons.
In Parsons.
Mhm.
So you go from the Holiday Sugar Tree area
Mhm.
down to Parsons.
Yes, sir.
How long does that take you? Do you know?
15 minutes.
You had a car back then?
Yes. Well, yes, sir. At that time.
Okay. What was Zach driving back then?
The white Nissan.
White Nissan?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a car or was it a truck?
It was a truck.
Is that what he was driving that morning?
I think so, yes.
Okay, well, let's not, if you don't remember something,
I think so.
did you see what car he got into when he went to go haul the scrap metal?
No, sir.
What we're going to talk about later, did you see him later in the day in a car?
In his truck.
Okay, we'll get there. You get to work.
Mm-hmm.
It is 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Has anything strange happened that morning?
Yes.
What's that?
Holly came up missing.
Holly came up missing.
Mm-hmm.
And did you know Holly at all?
I knew her through Joe's video. She would come tan or rent videos.
Yeah, because Joe's video used to, is it still open?
No.
It's closed.
Yes.
Used to not just rent videos, but there's tanning booths in there, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you knew her from that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you also know her cousin?
Yes.
What was her name?
Natalie, Bobo,
And how did you know Natalie?
through tanning. She would come in there and tan.
How did you hear that something happened to Holly that morning?
I think it was the news.
When do you hear or see Zack Adams again that morning?
It was close to the afternoon. He come by my work.
To Parsons?
Mhm.
Close to the afternoon to Parsons.
Mhm.
And what was his demeanor? Or did you personally see him when he came back from Parsons?
Yes. We got into an argument, of course, and we was arguing because I thought he was lying about going to the scrapyard because he switched phones.
Who switched phones?
Zach.
And what do you mean by switched phones?
He was using his brother's phone that he would use, which was Becky's,
How do you know he was using his brother's phone?
because he takes me from it.
And that was unusual.
Yes.
And so you immediately thought he wasn't scrapping.
Yes.
And did you confront him about this?
I don't remember.
Did you have a conversation with him about this?
Not necessarily about the phone, no.
No, not about the phone, but about the fact that you didn't think he was scrapping.
Oh, yes.
And what happened?
We got into it
Where?
at Joe's video.
And what happened?
He grabbed my head.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, let's not go into specifics.
It ended disagreeably.
Yes,
Would you agree with that?
yes,
When he came to see you at Joe's video, did you see the vehicle that he was in?
yes.
What vehicle was he in?
The Nissan.
The white Nissan?
Yes, sir.
Pickup truck?
Yes, sir.
Was he with anybody or was he by himself?
I don't remember.
After this disagreeable ending, did he leave?
Yes.
Do you remember if you heard from him again that day?
No, I don't. I didn't see him till later that night, I think.
Now I want to ask you about particular things that happened after that day, after the day that Holly disappeared. Okay? That next day, was there an occasion that you were at Zach's house and Zach and Shane were there?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I was cooking supper and the news come on, and they were talking about Holly missing, and Shane kind of smirked and started laughing. And Zach made the comment, said, they'll never be able to find her.
We'll never be able to find her.
Hmm.
Was there any more conversation about that at that time?
No. I didn't say anything. I just kept cooking.
You just kept cooking.
Hmm.
What's the next thing that you notice? What's the next thing that you notice?
What do you mean?
You describe Zach and Shane laughing and Zach saying what he did the day after the disappearance. After that, what's the next thing you notice that's suspicious or unusual that catches your attention?
Just, I don't know.
Okay, let me recall you to particular things.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Did you notice any physical injuries that Zach had around that time?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
3 scratches on his neck.
Scratches on his neck?
Yeah, parallel scratches on his neck.
On his
Neck.
neck.
Yes.
And had you seen those before he went scrapping?
No.
Did he have those after he went scrapping?
Yes.
You said you didn't believe that he went scrapping.
Mm-mm.
In fact, did you try to check on that?
Yes, I called.
After you called, did you still not believe he went scrapping?
I called and I asked them, I said, they said they couldn't give me any information.
Yeah, so I'm not asking you what they said,
Oh,
okay? But listen to me. After you made that call, okay, were you still suspicious that he didn't go scrapping?
yes.
Did you ask Zach about these scratches he had on him?
No.
Did you follow the news in the day, the next day, about Holly Bobo?
Yes, sir.
Were you familiar with the roads and the area around her house?
Yes, sir.
Did you know if Zack Adams was familiar with the roads and the area around her house?
Yes, sir.
And how did you know that?
Because we rode them together.
Had you ever seen the map of where Holly's cell phone went that day?
Yes.
Did that catch your attention?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Because that's the road he took all the time.
How long did you live in that house with him after she was taken
Till July,
till July?
3 months.
3 months in that house.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever notice anything strange physically about the house?
No.
Did you ever strike that? Let's go to July.
Okay.
Okay. Again, I'm not asking you about a particular incident, okay?
Okay.
When you finally left in July,
Yes, sir.
was that under unpleasant circumstances?
Yes.
During the course of those circumstances, did you and Zach argue?
Yes.
Fight?
Yes.
Were you trying to get away from him?
Yes.
Did he make any statements to you at that time about Holly?
I'm going to object if he's trying to get into 404B evidence.
Or I'm asking for a statement. You make any
Well,
statements?
Even if it's statements, Your Honor, if it's not relevant to this, then I object to that coming
And
in.
this is about this. I asked
May we
her
approach?
statements about Holly Bobo.
Mm-hmm.
Your objections overruled, passed.
Did he make any statements to you about Holly Bobo?
Yes, sir.
And what did he say?
He said he would tie me up just like he did Holly Bobo and nobody would ever see me again.
Did he tie you up like Holly Bobo and nobody ever see you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. July was your last month in that house
Yes, sir.
at Adams Lane.
Yes, sir. We talked and associated after that, yes.
You talked and associated after that, though. What was your life then, Rebecca?
Do what, sir?
How was your life then, Rebecca?
Awful.
Your Honor, I object to the relevance of this.
Overruled.
Are you doing better now?
Yes.
But after July, you were still talking to him.
Hmm.
Was there an occasion after July in which you heard him make any statements about Holly Bobo?
Do what now?
It was kind of general. After July,
Uh-huh.
when you were still talking to him,
Mm-hmm.
you were still
I would still go over there and stay the night and stuff.
seeing him,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes staying the night.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, if the witness can be instructed to actually verbalize the answer,
I think she is, but make sure you answer the court reporter's taking down what you say.
Okay.
I'll try to help you. If you nod your head, I'll try to,
Okay.
There you go. Did you ever overhear a conversation that Zack had with another person having to do with Holly Bobo?
Yes, sir.
And tell me about that.
It was at John Mitchell's house.
And who's, just generally, who is John Mitchell?
It's one of his friends.
His friend, you mean Zack's?
Yes.
What'd you hear?
That everything was ready to go in the back of the truck to be put up under the Birdsong Bridge.
To be put up under the Birdsong Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And they say what this was, it was going to be put up.
They said it was the remains of Holly. But when they found out that I found out about it, they said that it was remnants of making meth is what they got rid of.
Okay. So let me just back up so I understand. Do John Mitchell and Zack know that you're there?
Yes.
Zack says something about, tell me again, I don't want to miss. What does Zack say?
Zach said that everything was in the truck ready to go.
Everything's in the trunk of the truck.
Truck.
Everything in the truck ready to go to do what?
Take that Tupperware, it was a blue Tupperware thing, to Birdsong.
With the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And you know where that area is, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And that it was, who said something about the remains of Holly Bobo?
I can't remember.
Was it either Zack or Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, sir.
And then you said something about actually what it was with methamphetamines.
Yes.
And how did you figure that out?
Because later on they told me that it was just a joke, just to see if I would call the TBI.
They told you it was a joke to see if you would call.
John told me,
police?
yes.
You were able to get away,
Yes.
to get out of this.
Yes.
He never tied you up and did you like Holly Bobo.
No.
And you're doing better now.
Yes, sir. Way better.
What's that?
I said a lot better. I have a son now.
Just a few more things I just want to ask you about.
Okay.
Okay? You said you know Natalie Bobo.
Yes.
Do you know whether or not Zack Adams knew Natalie Bobo?
Yes, I introduced him.
Back then, did Zack have Facebook?
Yes.
Is that something that he would use?
Yes.
Is that something he would use sometimes to communicate with you?
Yes.
Is that something he'd use to communicate sometimes with other people.
Yes.
Did I ask you to review a large stack of papers?
Yes.
What was that large stack of papers I asked you to review?
It was pictures of us together at a bar, comments, just posts.
Sure. Was
Yeah.
it Zach's
Yes, it was
Facebook?
his Facebook.
And had you seen his Facebook before?
Yes.
A lot?
Yes.
Had you seen him using his Facebook before?
Yes.
A lot?
Yes.
Did he let other people, like, use his Facebook?
No.
Was that his?
Mhm.
And the various pictures that you saw on Facebook that you just told us about, were those pictures things that actually happened
Yes.
in your life and in his life?
Yes.
And so what I showed you was his Facebook.
Yes, sir.
I just want you to look at the top paper for my approach. Is this the Facebook records that I showed you?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Now, I'm not seeking to introduce these. This is years and years of Facebook records. I think they should be marked for identification. Later on, a very, very small portion will be introduced to another
All right,
witness.
the exhibit 62 for ID purposes.
Can I approach the witness again, Your Honor?
You may.
Do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
Is that Zack Adams?
Yes, sir.
Is that his Facebook profile?
Yes, sir.
No, I would have that picture marked.
The exhibit 63.
Can I approach the witness again, Your Honor?
You may.
Do you recognize that picture?
Yes, sir.
What's that a picture of?
One of the first times he took me up under the bridge.
He had taken you to that spot before, hadn't he? Up under the bridge
Yes, sir.
near Birdsong.
Yes, sir.
And what did y'all do there? What's that picture of?
It's a picture of spray painting Rebecca Loves Zach.
Up under that bridge
Yes, sir.
at Birdsong.
Yes, sir.
I'd have that marked in the image.
The exhibit 64.
Can I publish these? Your Honor?
You may.
I'm really bad at this. This is exhibit 64. Did you and Zach spray paint that together?
No, it was just me.
That's where he took you.
Yes.
Exhibit 63. That's his Facebook profile.
Yes, sir.
That's all my questions, Judge.
Right.
So, back in September of 2014, you were pregnant with your first child, weren't you?
Yes.
And that was after Zachary Adams had been arrested on charges in this case, wasn't it?
Yes.
And you specifically remember that Valerie Trout, a TBI agent, came to talk to you at your mother's house, don't you?
Yes.
And at that time, she threatened to take your unborn baby away from you and put it in DCS custody, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay. Matter of fact, she said that was based on whether or not you were going to be a fit person to take care of your child.
It was threatening me to say that if I told them all the truth and everything. I said I've been nothing but honest.
Right, but she specifically said that if you weren't going to tell them the truth, that they were going to
Yes.
take your unborn baby away.
Yes.
Okay. And that's not Zachary Adams' child, is it? It's
No.
another man's.
Yes.
So I want to go back and talk with you. You've given multiple statements in this case, haven't you?
Yes.
And you would agree with me, your statements have changed over time.
Yes.
So the first statement you gave was actually in April of 2011.
Yes.
Do you remember? I mean, just early on, someone stopped by and talked to you.
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, you gave absolutely no indication that Zachary Adams was involved in what had occurred.
Right.
And you even acknowledged at that time that Zach had scratches on him that he had gotten while he was being chased by an officer at the park, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. And so then you gave your next statement in July of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this was shortly after you and Zach had broken up for your final time of living together, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, you were very upset with Mr. Adams.
Yes.
And to be clear, Rebecca, I mean, just to be honest, back in the day, you were using meth also, weren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were using a lot of Xanax, weren't you?
Yes.
Okay. And you would use meth with Zach and use drugs with Zach, isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So much of the time you spent high.
At the first of it, yes.
Okay. And Zach was high also, wasn't he?
Yes.
Okay. That's one of the things that attracted you all to each other.
Yes.
And you had a very volatile relationship. It was full of very highs and lows, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, at some point you really loved him.
Yes.
And
I loved
he-
him a lot.
What?
I loved him a lot.
Yeah, and he expressed to you, he loved you a lot too, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that made the relationship so volatile, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that you were so upset about the scrapping is you suspected that he might be cheating on you.
Yes.
And that had you very upset, didn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So, in the July of 2011, you spoke to investigator Ricky Inman about Zack Adams.
Yes.
And at that time, you said that you and Zach had broken up you were breaking up around the time that Holly disappeared.
Yes.
And you said that morning, the night of April the 12th, you spent that night with Zach.
Yes.
And you said that the next morning, he was still at home when you left for work at 9:15 a.m.
You've got to understand I was under the influence then to where I was scared. I didn't know. So, yes, my statements are going to be different.
Yeah, but you were also under the influence of drugs too, weren't you?
Yes.
Okay. And so you said at that time that he was still at home that morning and you left around 9:15 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that a yes?
Yes.
It's just the court reporter. I understand what you're saying, but she needs to be able to write yes or no. And that you had so you spent that morning at Joe's Video working.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that a yes? Sorry.
Yes, sorry.
And Zack Adams' grandmother died on April the 1st, didn't she?
Yes.
And Zach was very close with his grandmother, wasn't he?
Very.
And so when she died, it tore him up, didn't it?
Yes.
Matter of fact, Zach's close to his was close to his grandmother and his grandfather.
Yes.
Okay. And so after she died, he was using extra amounts of meth, wasn't he?
Yes.
And some of the morphine that he had
Yes.
gotten from her. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so he was heavily dosing himself, wasn't he?
Yes.
Okay. And you were aware that he was arrested on April the 4th at Natchez Trace State Park.
Yes.
Matter of fact, it was his grandmother's funeral was April the 3rd.
Yes.
She had breast cancer. I mean, they expected her to die. It wasn't a surprise.
Yes.
And so her funeral was April the 3rd, and April the 4th, he just really got out of control at the state park and got arrested, didn't he?
Yes.
And at that time, his truck got impounded, didn't it?
Yes.
And Dick Adams actually owned that white truck, didn't he?
I think so.
And I think you said earlier it was a new truck, but it was a 98 Nissan pickup truck, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it was a mid-size pickup. It was not one of the
Not a
giant.
full size, no.
What?
It's not a full size, no.
Okay, it's not a full size. And so after Zach got arrested, his grandfather left the truck in impound for a while, didn't he?
Yes.
And then wouldn't give it back to Zach right away, would he?
Right. Right.
Right. And so that meant because Zach's black truck at that time, they had a black Nissan truck also, didn't they?
It was a Chevrolet truck.
No, that's Dylan's truck, the
No,
Chevrolet.
Dylan's was beige Chevrolet truck.
If the actual title to the truck shows that Dylan had a charcoal black or a graphite colored
Well, then
truck.
it might have been in Dylan's name. I don't know.
Okay.
That's the Zach. I thought that was Zach's truck. The
The-
black one.
Black one. Didn't Zach have a dark green truck at some point?
Not that I remember.
Zach went through a lot of cars.
Yes.
Can we say that?
Yes.
Okay. And so, at some point, Zach is then looking around for transportation, wasn't he?
Yes.
And Shane Austin did not have transportation because he had wrecked his truck, hadn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Matter of fact, Shane had also been in a motorcycle wreck, hadn't he?
Yes.
And he had also had an accident where he fell off a cooling tower.
Yes.
Matter of fact, was it the motorcycle accident that left one of his eyes kind of
Yes.
crooked?
Droopy, yes.
Droopy. So like the eyelid didn't go up right next to the eye, and it kind of drooped. You could see the pink under his eye, couldn't you?
Right.
And he had some scarring on his face too, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay. And so initially, when you talked to Ricky Inman, and Ricky Inman's an investigator for the local police department, correct?
Yes.
He's not a TBI agent?
No.
Okay. Initially, when you talked to Ricky Inman, you said that you thought Zach and his friend Victor Dinsmore were hauling scrap that day.
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't know for sure if Zach had talked with Shane Austin or not.
Right.
You said at that time that Zach, and this is just a few months later, but you said at that time Zach had never made comments to you about Holly. Had never made comments about Holly before she was taken.
Because when that had do what now?
He had not made comments about Holly
No.
before she was taken.
No.
Okay. Zach certainly would have liked the reward money, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was aware that there was a large reward out. In the end, how much do you remember it being?
$250,000.
$250,000. And you specifically do remember telling Ricky Inman that Shane was dependent on other people to drive him around because he didn't have a car.
Yes.
Okay. And you also did not believe that Zach had gone to the coon hunt that year.
Right.
Okay. So. And then the TBI came back, and the next time they had gotten the search warrants and been searching Zack Adams' home. And that
Yes.
was February the 28th, 2014,
Yes.
when they talked to you the next time.
Yes.
Okay. And, but this time when they talked to you in July, that's after you all had broken up. It was your final breakup.
Yes.
And Zack was out of your life for a while.
Yes.
So the next time the TBI talked to you, it was 2014, so it was basically 3 years later.
Yes.
Okay. And a lot of time had passed since the events had all occurred. And
Yes.
you didn't make notes. I mean, you yourself had not written down the events of that day, had you?
No.
So you were going by your memory.
Yes.
And the memories that you'd made as best you could, because at the time you were using meth and
Yes.
Xanax. And you used some other drugs too, right? Marijuana?
Marijuana.
Okay, so the next time they talked to you, it was several TBI agents that came to talk to you. Do you specifically remember Joe Walker and Joe Craig being there?
Vaguely, yes.
Okay. And at that time, you knew already that Zack had been arrested for this, didn't you?
Yes.
Because they came in and told you, listen, we've got the guy, didn't they?
Yes.
I mean, they were very confident when they came to tell you that they had arrested him. They didn't say, you know, we've arrested him and we think he might be the guy, or,
Your Honor, I think we're, hearsay on hearsay in this question. I ask that you not characterize what other people say, which is now the court statement.
right. Of course, I am not offering the fact that they said he was guilty for the truth of the matter. Let's be clear. I'm just
You can
offering it
ask
to
the
show.
question so that she can show what her
Right.
response is.
Yes, so the fact that they said all this to you, I mean, you have faith in law enforcement, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, you want to believe that if law enforcement does something, they know what they're doing, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. So then when they come to talk to you, they specifically said, they're asking you again about what happened. They brought with them some documents from Birdsong Auto Salvage regarding scrapping. Do you remember them bringing you documents?
No.
They brought you a list of all the people whose names were turned in. You're familiar
Okay,
with
yes, I
Birdsong?
do remember now.
Okay.
Yes.
First of all, you're familiar with Birdsong Auto Salvage.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a metal scrap
Yes.
location where people can take scrap metal, turn it in for cash money.
Yes.
And back in 2011, Zack Adams made a lot of his money with scrap metaling, didn't he?
Yes.
And that's where he got some of his money to buy drugs.
Yes.
He also sometimes on and off had some odd jobs here and there, didn't he?
Yes.
At some time he had worked for Decatur County and
North 40.
North 40, okay?
Yes.
And Zack Adams would spend a lot of time out looking for scrap metal. Is that correct?
Yes.
Sometimes he'd get it on the up and up, and sometimes he'd just have sticky fingers and pick up scraps around. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes.
Okay. And so the TBI brought to you a document that showed that Zack Adams' name was not on the list of people that had scrapped metal on April the 13th,
Correct.
2014.
Correct.
But they failed to show you that Zack Adams had actually scrapped metal on April the 11th, Monday, 2011.
Okay,
If I said 2014 just a minute ago, I meant 2011.
okay.
And they didn't tell you that he'd actually scrapped metal on Friday, April the 15th, 2011, did they?
No,
And so your memory 3 months later was that he had told you he'd gone to do scrap metal that day.
yes,
Okay. But you didn't specifically write that down anywhere that he had gone to do scrap metal.
no,
You were going by memory in July from an event that had happened in April April 13th.
yes,
Okay. And Zach did do scrap metaling a lot back in those days, didn't he?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that morning, you think that you went into work at Joe's Video at 9 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And you remember 9 a.m. because you usually open the store?
Yes,
And what time did the store open?
10 o'clock.
Okay, so you would get there at 9 to get things ready?
Yes, yes, because I had to go to the bank to do the deposit.
Okay. And so then, after they showed you this list and told you that Zach had not scrapped any metal that day, that you were then angry with Zack Adams at that time, weren't you?
Yes,
Because you felt like that was confirmation that he had lied to you and was perhaps cheating on you at the time.
yes,
And you're an emotional person, clearly. I mean, I see that you wrote Becca plus Zach, or Becca and Zach on the bridge support. You spray painted it. I mean, at times when you were in love, you wanted the world to know, didn't you?
yes,
And so, and Zach had a way with the ladies, didn't he?
yes,
And so the fact that he might be cheating on you was not out of the realm of possibility.
right.
Okay. So you remembered in February of 2014 that you didn't get back until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock that night after having worked. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Okay. You don't have a memory of that now as to what time you got home, do you?
No,
Now, you say Zach had scratches on his neck.
yes,
And where were those? Since you're saying neck and not throat, I'm assuming you mean around in the.
they were right here on the
So-
side of his neck.
So, okay, let's see. I just want to be clear for the record. You are pointing to your left-hand side? Is that your left? Right-hand side?
Yes, right,
Left-right problem. So you're saying that the scratches would have been on his right side of his neck,
yes, ma'am.
and they would have gone under the jawline from the
Towards the
ear
Adam's apple.
towards the Adam's apple.
Yes,
And how many scratches were there?
3,
There were 3 scratches right there.
yes,
And how deep were those scratches?
not very deep.
Not very deep?
Mm-mm.
Okay. At that point, did it alarm you when you say you saw those scratches?
Yes, but I never spoke of it.
So why wouldn't you speak of it?
I was scared.
Why were you scared?
I just was.
Okay, so knowing that at some point there was a reward out, there was a $250,000 reward, did it ever occur to you to say something before he was arrested by the TBI?
I did. I have.
You have what?
I have called the TBI and informed them before.
You called the TBI before that? Oh, well, when did you call the TBI?
Well, whenever I heard about the remains,
Oh, but you heard about the remains after he was arrested?
yes.
Okay, so no, I'm talking about before he was arrested.
Okay.
When did you call and tell them about scratches?
Oh, I
on his-
didn't.
Okay, you didn't.
No.
Okay. Specifically talking to an investigator, Danny Mulligan, from the defense team that came to speak with you?
Yes.
Danny kind of has a long ponytail.
Yes.
Now, do you remember specifically when you talked to Danny Mulligan, you told him, see, I had it up, that's computers when it's not on the paper. Do you remember telling him that the scratches on Zack's arms referenced in the report, and you say emphatically that the scratches were from a different day when Zack was running from the cops in Lexington and were not from the day that Holly Bobo disappeared?
Yes. He always had scratches on him.
Okay, so he had scratches from when he ran from the cops in Lexington too?
Yes.
Okay, so he did have those scratches?
Yes.
You acknowledge that?
Yes.
Okay. So now you're saying, yes, he had scratches from when he ran from the cops. And when we say Lexington, you're talking about the Natchez Trace incident.
Yes, ma'am.
So he did have those scratches, but now you're saying he had some additional scratches on his neck that were new, okay?
Yes.
So now you're saying he had 2 sets of scratches, at least, because you say he always was getting scratches.
Yes.
Okay. Then, do you also remember telling Mr. Mulligan that you weren't sure that it was incorrect in Joe Walker's report that you had worked till 10 o'clock p.m. that night? Do you remember telling Mr. Mulligan that you had
What
not?
night?
On the night that Holly disappeared, April the 13th, 2011. Do you remember telling my investigator that that part of Joe Walker's report was inaccurate?
No, I don't remember.
Is there a reason you wouldn't remember specifically what you said to our investigator?
I remember working the night before, but I don't. I mean, my 2-year-old was there
No, I'm sorry.
when he was interviewing me.
That's not what I'm talking about. Let's go back because I've confused you. when Danny Mulliken came to talk to you, you specifically remember he pulled out these TBI reports and handed you the written copies, right?
Yes, let me read them all.
He let you read them all.
Mhm.
And then you took a highlighter and you highlighted things in the report and then you marked on them. Do you remember
Yes,
that?
that wasn't true and was true.
Okay, so the part in, and I'm referring to Joe Walker's report because Joe Walker wrote up the report when he came to see you February 8th, 2014, along with Special Agent Joe Craig.
Okay.
Okay. And then Joe Walker put down, I worked until 10 o'clock p.m. that night. You told Danny Mulliken that that was an inaccuracy in Joe Walker's report.
Of what night?
Then it's April the 13th, 2011, the day Holly disappeared.
That means I would have had to work a double, so no, I don't think I would have,
Okay, so that's an inaccuracy in Joe Walker's report.
I guess.
Because you didn't work a double shift that day.
I don't remember, no.
Okay. And even after you and Zack broke up for the last time in July of 2011, you all still remained friends at
yes.
some point. Yes?
Yes,
And you occasionally would spend the night over there and hang out with him.
I don't recall ever spending the night, but going over there, yes.
I thought on direct you said you spent the night over there some.
I could have, yes.
Did you just say that a little while ago on direct? When Mr. Hagerman was asking you questions?
Yes,
Okay, so sometimes you do sometimes you say things that you forget, is that what?
no,
Okay. So you did sometimes spend the night with Zack Adams?
yes,
After you all broke up?
yes.
Okay. Do you consider yourself to be a psychic type person?
No,
Okay. And then you gave another statement. The next day, because 2014, well, that statement was on the 28th of February, and then you gave a statement on March the 1st, and I think 2014 was a leap year, so it would have been 2 days later. Does that sound right to you?
I guess.
Okay. And so in that statement, they actually sat down and went over some telephone numbers with you.
Yes,
And they went over your call records that day.
yes,
Because you do recognize that the TBI went ahead and subpoenaed your telephone records from the day Holly disappeared from AT&T.
yes,
And they went over your telephone record with you very carefully to ask you what numbers were what.
yes,
And I think earlier I heard you testify that on the day Holly disappeared, Zack Adams called you from his brother Dylan's cell phone.
text me, yes,
Texted you from his brother Dylan's cell phone.
yes.
But would you be surprised to know that Dylan's cell phone records do not show that a text call was made to you from his phone?
He also had this spoofing card that he could make it come up any number.
Okay, but what the spoofing card did was made caller ID look like any number.
Mm-hmm.
You would agree with me the way the spoofing card worked, because you heard him use it. He used it as a joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
He could.
Yes,
You dial the spoofing card telephone number, right?
I guess, yes,
And then there's a little second, and you put in the phone number that you want to show up in caller ID,
yes,
and then you dial the number you want to call.
right?
Then you can pick another kind of voice too, because you can have it alter your voice to make it sound like a woman or a man, something like that, right?
Yes,
It just alters the tone of the voice, kind of like auto song does tunes, or auto tune does songs, right?
Yes.
Okay. But there still would be a record of you calling into the spoof card line phone number, right?
I guess.
Okay. So, if the Dylan's telephone does not show that any calls were made on it that day, then does that surprise you that the phone wasn't actually used?
No, I think she's already answered this. I think that's how we started this whole
What was the question? Was it surprised that he called from?
No, that he didn't really use Dylan's phone to call you that day.
I just remember him calling me from a different number that wasn't his, is what made me led to believe that he did not go to the scrapyard.
Okay, so he called you on your cell phone number?
Yes.
So what time of day did he call you on that cell phone?
I don't remember.
So, but you don't know for sure it was Dylan's number?
I thought it was his grandmother's, the one that Dylan was using, yes.
Okay. So, you would agree with me, because you reviewed your cell phone number, your cell phone records from the day Holly disappeared, that you and Zachary Adams had a lot of texting going on that day.
Yes.
I mean, you had tens of texts going back and forth to one another.
Yes.
And he kind of blew up the phone at Joe's video too, didn't he?
Yes.
Joe's video had, was it a landline
Yes.
number?
Yes.
So he blew
We had
up-
3 numbers.
They had 3 numbers?
Yes.
Okay, do you happen to remember what those 3 numbers were?
No.
So he blew up the Joe's video number,
Yes.
and he blew up your cell phone number too, because he was calling it a lot.
Yes.
And matter of fact, Cindy Adams, Zack Adams' mother, got involved in your dispute that day, didn't she?
Facebook, yes.
On Facebook?
Yes.
But she also was on the phone with you and was on the phone with Zach, wasn't she?
Yes.
And she had a Georgia telephone number
Yes, ma'am.
because she lived in Georgia.
Yes.
Okay. And so are you aware that cellular telephone numbers, if you get the records, can show where somebody's location is?
Yes.
Okay. And are you aware that your cellular telephone records from the night before Holly disappeared, April the 12th, show that you stayed, or they show that your phone was hitting off of the tower in South Parsons? Are you
My
aware?
mother's, yes.
Yes, and your mother lives in South Parsons, is
Yes.
that right? And then the next morning, your telephone records show that they're hitting off the cellular telephone tower in South Parsons again.
Where I work.
Is it possible that you just spent the night there with your mother that night?
It's possible, but I mean, I remember him waking me up that morning to where I went there late the night before because we had been into it.
But it's possible you spent the night at your mother's house.
No.
It's not possible?
I remember him vaguely. I mean, I remember,
You vaguely remember him waking you up that morning.
yes, kissed me on the forehead, said he was hauling scrap.
Okay.
It was that day.
But the thing is, that morning, before Holly had disappeared, there was nothing different about that morning to make it stick out in your mind than Monday morning would have been or Friday morning would have been. Was there?
No.
Because until after Holly disappeared, it was going to be just like any other day, wasn't it?
Right.
Okay. And you worked a lot at Joe's Video, didn't you?
Yes, full time.
Okay. And I see that you wrote, you're the one that spray painted Becca and Zach on the bridge. You all went down to that area a lot, didn't you?
Yes.
And if Zach's cell phone records show that he was over there hitting off of the cellular tower next to the river, it's because you all would go over there.
Yes.
They have a greenway over there under the bridge, don't they?
Yes.
Where people go and exercise and walk, don't they?
Yes.
People go over there to fish. It's a great fishing spot, isn't it?
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that go over there to that greenway, aren't there?
Yes.
Okay. And it's really just a beautiful place with birds and wildlife and trees, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Sorry.
One of us is married to a court reporter and is very aware of when people don't answer. So you actually, on March 1st, went over all of your calls with with Joe Walker that day. So the night before, there were multiple calls between you and Zack Adams, after 10 o'clock p.m. So this is on April the 12th. There were multiple calls between you and Zack Adams after 10 p.m. Up until about 1 o'clock a.m.
Yes.
And all of those calls were made. You recognize that location showed that you were hitting off of your mother's tower. Your cell phone was hitting off your mother's tower,
Okay.
where her house is.
Yes.
And nobody else would have been using your phone. It would have been you using that phone at that time. Is that right?
Not necessarily. Sometimes I use my mother's phone,
Okay, no,
cell phone.
But nobody else, there's not another
No.
woman that would have called Zack Adams
No.
from your phone.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So if somebody's calling Zack Adams from your cell phone, it would have been you. Isn't that
Yes.
right? Okay.
All right, everybody wake up.
Okay, and then the TBI, they had another little follow-up question for you also on March 1st about your telephone. Then they came back and talked to you again on March the 5th. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. They talked to you a lot
Yes.
right after they searched Zach's house. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And you testified today that at some point, Zach, you said it's in July when you were finally breaking up, that Zach told you that he was going to tie you up.
Yes.
And nobody would find you, said he would tie you, I tried to write it down verbatim, said he would tie you up like he did Holly Bobo and nobody would ever see you.
Correct.
But at some point, didn't you tell the TBI later on that he said he would tie you up and put you in his closet?
We were in his closet when it happened.
And didn't he indicate to you something about you're claiming that he indicated to you that he would tie you up and put you in the closet like he did Holly Bobo?
No, I never said that. Not that I remember, no.
So if it's in a report, it's an error that you said he'd put you in the closet?
Yes.
Because certainly you lived there at the time and you know Holly Bobo was not in the closet.
Mm-mm.
And Holly Bobo was not in the Adams house.
No.
She wasn't kept there because you lived there, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. And you certainly wouldn't have tolerated or hidden that fact from the police, would you?
No.
I mean, you weren't so in love with Zack Adams that you would cover up and hide a horrible crime like that for him, would you?
No.
And part of your conflict that you have is, you know, when the DA was asking you if it had been very hard, part of it's because you now feel like you dated and were in love with a person who's been charged with this horrible crime.
Yes.
And so that's something that's very hard for you to take because you feel like you've exposed yourself.
Yes.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
And so in a way you're wanting to do the very best you can because you feel like you need to rectify some wrong. Isn't that right?
Yes.
I mean, you're eager to please the TBI and help them convict
I'm eager to
Zach.
tell them the truth. No, I wouldn't say please them.
Well, you want to help them convict Zach, though, don't you?
Yes.
You had a very good friend named Brandon Williams, didn't you?
Yes.
And Brandon Williams at the time was a best friend to you, almost like a girlfriend would be.
Yes.
And so Zack Adams actually on the day that Holly disappeared spent some time talking to Brandon Williams also on the telephone, didn't he?
I guess.
And he would have talked to Brandon Williams because,
Your Honor, I'm going to check this is not even conversations this was a party to. She's talking about her client speaking with.
Talking to Brandon.
Williams.
right.
It'd be hearsay on hearsay.
Well, I didn't say what he said. I just said he had spoken to him.
It's because I'm objecting.
She said he had spoken to him.
Yeah, and Brandon Williams was contacting you that day too, right?
Yes.
So when he was contacting you, he was working out the relationship with you. All were working on relationship problems with Zack Adams, isn't that right?
I don't think so. No, I don't remember.
But you don't remember specifically.
No.
Okay. So now, here today, you testified that at some point Zack Adams said everything was ready to go in the back of the truck and there was a big blue Tupperware box back there,
Yes.
and he told you it was the remains of Holly Bobo?
Didn't tell me, no.
You're saying he said
They
out
was
loud,
having their own conversation. I was in a different room.
and you're saying now that he said out loud it was the remains of Holly Bobo?
One of them had said that, yes.
Okay. Well, you could certainly tell the difference between Zach's voice and John Mitchell's voice, couldn't you?
I just don't remember. I just remember going straight to my mother's after that.
Okay, so you didn't go to the police and report it.
No.
Okay. And all those times that the TBIs talked to you, you've not mentioned
I
that.
called the TBI after that.
Okay, you called the TBI after that.
Yes,
Now,
ma'am.
this is before you all broke up for the last time, is that right?
I think so.
Okay, so you would have had an opportunity to mention the fact that they said, and did you decide they were joking about that? Or
No,
were
they
serious?
ended up telling me it was a joke to see if I would call the TBI.
So, did you think it was a joke, or did you think in fact her remains were in the box?
I just blew it off. No, I didn't think that was her remains, no.
So you thought it was a joke?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you say you called the TBI, but this would have been before July of 2011, is that right?
No.
It
This was after.
After July of 2011?
Yes. Because me and Zach was already broke up when we was at John's house.
Okay, you know that the TBI has kept records. I mean, they have thousands of telephone calls that they've received from people. Did you give your name when you called in and said that it was in a big blue Tupperware?
I think so.
You gave them your name.
I think so.
Okay, well then when Joe Walker came out to talk to you February 28th, 2014, why didn't you say, by the way, why didn't you follow up on the fact that I said he had Holly's remains in a big blue tub?
When I talked to him on the phone, they said that they were going to go down there and check it.
But you didn't mention that.
I didn't think I had to mention it to him because I've already told him.
They are there on February 28th to talk to you about what you know about the disappearance of Holly Bobo.
Yes.
And at that time, you think it is not necessary to mention to them that at some point he said...
Because it was played off as a joke.
Okay, so now you're saying it was a joke. You did go ahead and call it into TBI, even though it was a joke, but you didn't mention it when you talked to them February 28th, March 5th, or March 1st.
I didn't think I had to because I think it would be on records.
Okay. You certainly repeated a lot of other facts at that time, though, didn't you?
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Just trying to shut it down.
Now, you say that you introduced Zack to Natalie Bobo. That would have been after Holly disappeared, wasn't it?
No, it was right when me and Zach had started talking. This was before we even got serious. It was when I lived on 6th Street in Parsons.
And so it's just, I mean, you've never before told the TBI that you had introduced Zack to
Yes.
Natalie. When did you tell the TBI this?
From the get-go, I guess. From the very get-go.
Well, we reviewed that first report that you had with Ricky Inman. You didn't mention it to Ricky Inman.
No, not then I didn't.
Okay. We reviewed the second report that you had where they came to talk to you on the 28th. You didn't mention it then, did you?
I don't remember.
So you're saying here today that you were the one that introduced Zack to Natalie Bobo?
As far as I know, yes.
You were talking earlier about your car, but in fact, you had an accident and wrecked your car in May of 2011, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And after that, Zack allowed you to drive his truck, didn't he?
No, he would take me to and from work.
He did allow you to drive that truck some, didn't he?
Not that I remember.
He never let you drive it.
Maybe 1 or 2 times.
Did the TBI or DCS come take away your child after it was born?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And by that time, you had straightened up drug-wise anyway, hadn't you?
Yes.
I mean, you were clean when your son was born.
Yes.
So there wouldn't have been a reason for them to take your son away based on
Correct.
drug use or anything. And you're employed right now?
Yes, ma'am.
So you, even though Joe's video has gone out of business,
Yes.
but you have no problem providing for your child, isn't
No,
that right?
ma'am, I work 2 jobs.
And that would have been the same in 2014, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in the process of you breaking up with Zack Adams back in 2011, at some point you had some of your furniture and belongings over at Zack's house, didn't you?
At what time?
In 2011, when you all were living together?
Yes.
You had
Yes.
some of your furnishings and belongings over there, didn't you?
Yes.
You had a mattress over there, in fact.
Yes.
Okay. And when you all were breaking up, you at some point moved that mattress back home and then moved it back to Zack's?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Zack had access to Zack did use Facebook back in 2011, isn't that right?
Yes,
And he would post to it, is that right?
yes,
Okay, and you didn't get on and post to his Facebook page, did you?
no,
He didn't post to your Facebook page, post as him.
No.
And you didn't post as him, he didn't post as you on your Facebook page?
No.
That's different than writing a message or writing on the wall.
comment, yes.
Okay. And so, I just want to, as a final matter, can you tell me exactly what you did on April the 13th, 2011?
I worked.
Okay. What time did you get up that morning?
I got up around 8 o'clock.
Do you remember what you wore?
No,
Okay. You think you got up around 8 o'clock. Can you be more specific than that?
no.
Okay. And what did you do next? Did you eat
I got-
breakfast?
No, I got ready for work and drove to Joe's Video, called in something to eat at Sonic, went to the bank, did
Okay.
a deposit.
Called in something to eat at Sonic. Do you remember that specifically?
Yes,
Or is it just what you did every morning?
this is what I did every morning.
Okay, so you don't have a specific memory that morning of what you called in to eat?
No,
Okay. You went to the bank. Do you remember how much the bank deposit was that day?
no.
Okay. Then what did you do next?
Went and got my food at Sonic, and then went to work.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many customers you had that day?
No,
Do you have, you remember, of course, that Holly was disappeared from her home.
yes,
Do you remember specifically what time you got off that day?
no,
Do you remember what you had for lunch that day?
no,
Do you remember what you had for dinner that day?
no,
Do you remember where you went after work?
no.
Do you remember where you spent the night that night?
Started out at my mother's.
The night of the 13th? The night of the 13th,
The
after
night
she
of the
disappeared.
13th, I was at work. I worked late, I know. But I don't remember where I went afterwards, no.
Okay. Do you remember what time you went to bed?
Mm-mm.
Okay. No further questions.
Been up there a while,
Yes,
a while more.
yes,
Okay. She asked you why you were scared. Isn't that right?
yes.
Let's start with the day y'all finally broke up. Okay?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I'm
Okay,
going to
bro.
object to any kind of 404B, Your Honor.
I think the door's wide open.
I did not open that door, Your Honor. That was not the intent of that question. We can approach.
Let's take a recess. Take about 15 minutes and then we'll continue. Please be seated. What I'm going to do, rather than make each of these an exhibit, I'm just going to give them to the court reporter and there'll be collective exhibit, whatever the note was, okay? And I'll go ahead and tell you what these are. One of them says, what is 404B content? I'm going to tell them that that's a rule of evidence and that we really don't need to go into it. It's strictly legal grounds, okay? And the other one, they want to know what game I was playing. I think that's when the sound went off.
Your Honor, before they do come in, I did want to put on the record that the state filed a supplement to the state's notice of intention to use evidence in, I guess, 404B is attached on the back of that set of motions at the end of May. And in that motion to introduce 404B evidence, we included the domestic violence. We included actually, looks like 12 things, including the information that we sought to admit today. And we are asking the court to allow us to hear that motion. At the time, we had motion hearings, and the defense, of course, I guess, did not want us to introduce that. Your Honor said that we would take that up in the course of the trial as these things came.
Do you want to take it up now?
I do, because this is the right witness. This would have been the witness.
All right, let's bring the witness
Then we would have
in.
to call.
Keep the jury out. All right. Put a 1 on the first one, 2 on one of these, 3 on the other. The witness is what I want. All right, if you'll have a seat there. State can proceed.
Yes, sir, you're still on drugs, okay? Jury's not here. There's two things that we started to talk about that we didn't talk about under direct examination. That's what I'm going to ask you about now, okay? Let's start on the day that you finally left in July.
Okay.
Zack Adams. Do you remember that day?
The day that I left?
Yes.
Yes,
Is it something you'll ever forget?
correct.
Listen to my question.
Uh-huh.
Is it something that you'll ever forget?
Oh, no, no.
Can you tell us what happened that day?
We got into it physically. I was trying to get away. I took off running, ran in the closet, and he held me down and was trying to tie my feet up with one of his belts. And he told me that he was going to tie me up just like he did Holly Bobo, and nobody would ever find me again. And somehow I got away. He was in his boxer shorts, and I grabbed his manly as tight as I could and pulled, and that's how I got away, and I took off running.
And at the time that he said that, his demeanor, was he joking with you?
No.
Was he being very violent with you?
Yes.
Was he being very serious with you?
Yes.
And is that something that you'll ever forget?
No.
Rewind to the day that Holly Bobo went missing.
Okay.
You described how Zack came to Joe's video.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
You described it as being getting toward noon,
Mm-hmm.
or getting toward the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
What happened when Zack came to Joe's video?
The reason why we was into it, I don't really remember, but when he got out of the truck and he came up to me forcefully and grabbed my head as tight as he could and headbutted me.
And that was on the very day that she went missing,
Yes.
hours afterwards.
Yes.
And when he did that, was he joking or was he doing
No.
violently?
No.
The fact he'd been violent with you, were those reasons why you were afraid of him?
Yes.
That you were still there living with him?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to be heard on the 404B.
I'm ready to rule. As far as 404B, court finds that these acts of domestic violence, I find that they did occur by clear and convincing evidence. They might conserve a material issue as far as showing her fear, but as far as the last part of that, the court must exclude the evidence if its probative value is outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice, and the court so found. So we won't go further into those matters. Let's bring our jury in, please. Be seated, please. All right, we're going to go until the evening. Ray had a couple more questions. Someone wanted to know what 404B content is. I will tell you that That's actually a rule of evidence, but it's something that concerns itself to the court from a legal standpoint. It does not concern the jury. It's a determination that I must make concerning the admissibility of certain evidence, okay? And then number two, somebody wanted to know what game I was playing. I don't do that. I hit one of these doggone videos, and I did it twice, and it sounded like it on loudspeakers up here. But I think we've got that remedied. I will tell you periodically, I will check things on this. I've got Westlaw where I can do legal research. I have actually looked at these proceedings that are being televised to make sure that the press is in conformity with what they're allowed to show and not show. So that's some of what I've been doing up here, and I just hit the wrong button. I might have told you my tech support is my wife and daughter. I can barely get around on this thing, so I make mistakes, but we got it silenced now, okay? All right, we're ready to proceed.
Ms. Rick, you can question. We heard about statement. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Answer out loud.
Yes, sir.
We've heard about, at times, something happening at one time and then a different time, maybe at a different time. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
We've heard how your life was back then,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We've heard that it was volatile with him, correct?
Yes.
We've heard that you were scared of him.
Yes.
I want to drill down right now just to the absolute truth of 3 or 4 things.
Okay.
Okay? So can you really listen to my questions?
Yes.
Okay. The day when you finally left him,
Okay.
what did he say to you that day?
One day that he left. I don't remember. The day that he.
Let me.
I object to any leaning.
He can ask it another way. She's already given testimony.
Let me back it up. This is something you've already told us about.
Okay.
Okay? The day that you finally left,
Mm-hmm.
okay? I'm not asking you what happened. But the day that you finally left him, what did he say to you?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, maybe I'm confused.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I have to
He didn't
answer.
want me to leave.
All right, would you stand when you make your objection?
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor, yes.
And it has not been asked and answered. He can ask.
When did Zack Adams tell you he'd tie you up like Holly Bobo and you'd never be seen again?
July the 13th.
You remember that day?
Yes.
Is that not the day that you finally left him?
Yes. And I called my mother to come get me, and he ended up calling her back saying that everything was okay. But my mother had an instinct to go ahead and send my nephew to come get me.
Okay, let's stop it there.
Mm-hmm.
So did my question confuse you before that?
Yes.
It did.
Yes.
So July the 13th, that isn't a day you're ever going to forget.
No.
When's your birthday?
July 14th.
This is the day before your birthday.
Yes.
It's the day that you finally got away from him, right?
Yes.
Your mother came and picked you up?
No, my nephew.
Your nephew.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he say to you that day?
He told me that I better not go to the law or better not make any statements, otherwise he would hurt me or my family.
And you were afraid of him?
Yes.
And is that not the same day that he told you he'd tie you up like Holly Bobo?
Yes.
Now back up. I don't want to confuse you.
Okay.
I need you to really listen. You've been out there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Now back up. April 13th,
Mm-hmm.
when Holly goes missing.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you wake up that morning?
Zack's house.
Are you absolutely sure?
Yes.
What woke you up that morning?
Zack.
Are you absolutely sure?
Yes.
About what time did that happen?
Anywhere from 6 to 7.
Just speak up, please.
Anywhere from 6 to 7.
So would you agree with me that you can't say that it was at 6:05? You can't say it was at 6:15?
Correct.
You can't say it was at 6:50? It was between 6 and 7.
Yes.
And are you sure of that?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He kissed me on the forehead and told me to go back to bed, but not to be late for work.
Okay, and what did he tell you about where he was going?
To the scrapyard.
And when he told you this, how close to you is he?
What do you mean, how close?
How physically close is he to you?
Standing from me to you. I mean, he was standing at the edge of the bed.
At the edge of the bed.
Yes.
And you're in bed.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all are just feet away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells you not to be late to work, that he's going scrapping.
Yes.
What do you do after he tells you that?
I go back to bed.
You go back to bed.
Mm-hmm.
And you sleep some more.
Yes.
Do you know when you woke up?
It's about 8 o'clock. I mean, well, no, it's about 7:45, something like that.
Okay. Would you agree with me that you don't know if it was 7:45, if it was 7:50, if it was 8, if it was 8:05?
I don't really remember.
Okay, well, so that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's important.
Okay.
Where do you go that morning?
I go to work.
Joe's video.
Yes.
Do you see Zack later that day at Joe's video?
Yes.
I'm not asking you what he did, but what was his demeanor? Was he happy? Was he sad?
He seemed irritable.
Irritable.
Yes.
At that point, did you already suspect that he hadn't been scrapping?
Yes.
Do you know what you did after you got off work that day?
No.
Do you know if you went back to your mom's house?
I don't remember.
Okay. Mama lives in Parsons, right?
Yes.
Do you know if you went back to Zach's house?
I don't remember.
Do you know if you spent the night at your mama's house or Zach's house?
I don't remember.
But do you remember, I'm asking you, do you remember in the days after that, being in Zach's house with Zack Adams and Shane Austin?
Yes.
And do you remember something coming on the TV about Holly Bobo?
Yes.
And when it did, what happened?
Shane started laughing.
And when Shane laughed, how far from Shane were you?
I was sitting in the kitchen. He was sitting in the living room, so probably from here to the corner of that, from those piles of paper right there. A little farther,
I don't see papers.
about right there.
It's 10 to 15 feet from him. 10 feet from him. And he laughs. And what does Zach do?
He makes the comment saying that they'll probably never find her.
They'll probably never find her. And did that laugh, and his comment, did it have an effect on you?
Yes.
Is it something you remember?
Yes.
And then you described other things. The time you stayed with Zach, even after that. Is that right?
Yes.
Were those good days for you?
No.
What truck was Zach driving then, April 13th?
White Nissan
Is there
truck.
any doubt in your mind about that?
No.
Now, that same truck he'd been arrested in 10 days or whatever it was before, is that right?
Yes.
Had he gotten the truck back?
Yes. He went through so many vehicles, I don't know. But
Well,
yes,
listen to my question.
Dick had it.
I object to the, she's guessing at something. I object to guessing.
Listen to my question. What truck was Zach driving on April 13th?
White Nissan truck.
Okay. And why are you sure of that?
Because he came up to Joe's video. And he pulled up right where I was sitting.
And did you see it?
Yes.
How far away from you was it?
Me to you.
3 or 4 feet. Him and his white Nissan. Don't
Yes.
worry about your kids.
I'm not.
So had he gotten that truck back after he was arrested?
After he was arrested, when?
Exactly. I confused you. The weeks before, the park ranger.
Yes. Yes, he did.
He had gotten the truck back?
Mhm.
Were you with him when he got it back?
No.
How do you know he got it back?
Because it was in Dick's shoot. It was parked over there between the two houses, Dick's house and his house.
So you remember he got it back?
Mhm.
And you remember you saw it?
Yes.
There's been questions about, or I heard questions about, well, didn't Zach go scrapping different days? Is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember that morning when he kissed you on the forehead and woke you up, that he actually told you that he was going to scrap?
Yes.
And that was go ahead.
I even heard the trailer and the truck drive around the house. That was, I mean, they had the trailer full of scrap.
And in fact, before you left that day, did you do something with a note or something?
Yes, I wrote a note telling him whenever he got back to put the clothes in the laundry.
Whenever he got back to put clothes in the laundry.
Or put the clothes in the dryer.
Okay. And that was just a
Mm-hmm. On a
piece
little
of
notebook.
paper or something. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, did something happen to that note?
I checked all the reading.
I'm not suggesting what happened to it. I'm just asking her.
Overruled.
Later on, did something happen to that note?
Yes, part of the bottom paper was ripped off.
Okay. And did that happen that day?
I don't remember.
Okay. Why do you remember this note, and why do you remember this?
Because he was telling me that he had been home, and I knew he hadn't. Or he told me he'd been home, but yet the clothes weren't in the dryer, and like I said, that paper was ripped, and then the scrapyard's business card was taped on there.
Okay, so you had left a note for him
Mm-hmm.
before you left
Mhm.
on April 13th of 2011. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
Asked him something about putting the clothes in the dryer or something.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And he had told you that he hadn't been home.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
But the note was different?
Mm-hmm.
How was it different?
It was, the bottom paper was ripped.
Okay. And what about, there's something about a business card or something?
It was an old business card. It was real dirty. It was just taped on there.
So you had taped on a business card to this
It
note?
looked like it was misplaced, like it wasn't supposed to be taped on there. It was, I don't know.
Okay.
But I knew I didn't leave it there.
And this made an impression on you.
Yes.
This is one of the reasons you were so suspicious.
Yes.
And so what'd you do with that note?
I kept it.
You kept it.
Yes.
April the 13th, the note, you kept it.
Mm-hmm.
And what'd you do with it after you kept it?
I later gave it to y'all.
You gave it to who?
To one of the TBI agents.
To the TBI agent.
Yes.
Can I approach you with this? What is that?
The note I wrote Zack.
Whose handwriting is that?
Mine.
And what are you telling them?
Will you put those clothes in the dryer for me? Thanks. Have a great day.
And when you returned later that day,
Mm-hmm.
what had happened to the note?
It was ripped on the bottom.
So when you left it, it was a full page of paper?
Yes, sir.
And what else had happened to it?
Business card was taped on, like, it was halfway taped on the side and on the counter.
And what kind of business card is it?
It's auto salvage.
And that's what he had told you he was going to do, right? Was
Yes.
like scrap?
Mm-hmm.
But you knew that he didn't.
Right.
But yet he left that.
Yes.
And so you kept it.
Yes.
You kept it. an actual piece of evidence from April the 13th of 2011. I'd introduce that evidence this time, Judge.
Exhibit 65.
So when you're asked about this scrapping on April 11th, and whether or not you remember it, well, here it is. It's from April 13th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. This is Exhibit 65. Whose writing's this?
Mine.
What does it say? Can you read it to me?
Oh, yes, will you put the clothes in the dryer, please? Have a great day. Thanks, love, Becca.
And it was on a piece of paper when you left on April the 13th.
Yes,
When you came back, the paper's ripped,
yes,
but he told you he hadn't been home.
right.
And then there's this salvage card taped to it,
Mm-hmm,
but you knew he hadn't been scrapped.
right.
And so you kept this,
Mhm.
and you turned it in.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, Judge.
Okay, so on July the 20th, 2011, that's after the day in infamy, July the 13th, 2011, of course, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And on that day, you've already left Zack Adams forever as his girlfriend, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And at that time, when you talked to Ricky Inman, you told him that Zack was still at home when you left for work that morning around 9:15 a.m., didn't you?
yes, I did, but you've got to understand I was under the influence. I was scared to death. And he had already told me, I mean, with all the threats and things that he's given me, of course I wasn't going to tell the whole truth.
Okay, so you weren't going to tell the whole truth then,
Mm-mm.
right? But between that day, July the 20th, 2011, you remained friends with Zack Adams up until the time he was arrested,
I loved him.
didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. You loved him,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and you remained friends. You continued to go over to his house and hang out with him, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. And so later on, when you spoke to, I guess earlier today, minutes ago, after 3:30 p.m., when you testified in front of this jury, you told this jury that you woke up on April the 13th, 2011, sometime between 6 a.m. and 7:30 a.m., didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And then just minutes ago, you told Paul Hagerman on your redirect that you woke up sometime between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m., didn't you?
Yes.
So you cut 30 minutes of it off.
It's been 6 years ago.
Okay, so it's been 6 years. Your memory is fuzzy.
Yes.
Okay, and then I'd like to look at this note we've just put in. Is this the note right here? I'm going to look at this note that we've just put in. This is the note. And you pull out this note years later, is that right?
Yes.
I mean, you broke up with Zack July the 13th, 2011, and sometime in 2014 is the first time you produced this note, isn't it?
I don't remember when I produced it. I don't remember when I gave it to him.
Okay. Well, if it doesn't, it's not mentioned in your report with Ricky Inman, is it?
No.
Okay. And so you agreed with me earlier that from that point, after you talked to Ricky Inman in 2011, the next time you spoke with officers was after Zack had been arrested on these charges, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. And you came forward and you say you have this note, and this note right here, a scrap note on a piece of notebook paper, is how you remember the day that Zack went scrapping.
Yes, ma'am.
But this note does not have a date on it, does it?
No.
This note, and I think you may have misread it earlier, it says, Zack, will you put these clothes in dryer for me? Thanks. Have a great day. Peace sign, heart, smiley face, love, Becca. Okay. And it happens to have a card for the Highway 191 Auto Salvage taped to it. But this note in and of itself doesn't help you remember which day it was that Zack went scrapping, does it?
It helped me remember because I knew that that was another reason that he was in a lie. I mean, he told me a lie.
Right. But the thing was, if you think about it, because you're saying you suspected he was cheating on you, and when the whole thing about metal scrapping is he went metal scrapping, but you think maybe instead he was cheating on you and didn't really go metal scrapping. That's why you were mad, right?
I never said that, no.
I thought you said you were worried he was cheating on you.
During our relationship, yeah.
No, but I thought on direct you said you were worried that he was cheating on you.
At one point in our relationship, yes, but not that morning, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I understood that morning you thought he was cheating on you.
No.
Okay. But in fact, he had, or it's very possible, he had been metal scrapping on other days that same week, right?
Yes.
And this just helps you remember, I mean, if you're honest with yourself, it helps you remember you were mad at him about metal scrapping. It's only through an association in your memory that you say it's on that particular Wednesday. It could have been on that Monday, couldn't it? It's possible.
No, because I specifically remember that was another reason why he lied to me that day. Because I knew he had been at home because of the bottom piece of the paper had been ripped.
The bottom piece of the paper being ripped lets you know he was at home some point during the day.
Yes.
Okay. But that could have been on Monday. The paper being ripped doesn't help you distinguish Monday from Wednesday, does it?
No.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, you were already fussing with him on Tuesday, April the 12th. Because that's why you were at your mother's house late, isn't it?
Yes.
That's why you were considering not spending the night with him, because you were already in a fight, isn't it?
Yes.
And you don't specifically now remember what that fight was about, do you?
No.
Okay. So it's possible that the fight on Tuesday had to do with metal scrapping on Monday, isn't it?
If you say so.
No, I'm telling you, I'm asking you, it's possible, isn't it?
No.
Okay. So the fact that there happens to be an auto salvage card taped to this note does not help you remember what specific day this occurred on, does it? Not this specific question.
We're about to beat this thing to death. Go
on. Because in fact, he already knew where to go scrapping. He didn't need a card to go scrap there. He didn't need to pick up a card so he knew where to go that day.
Correct.
So you say that he gets to Joe's video and you have a fight at Joe's video with him over scrapping. Is that what you had an argument with him at Joe's video over scrapping?
Yes.
Okay. And he shows up at Joe's video. You say he has the trailer on the truck at Joe's video?
No, the trailer wasn't on there, no.
Okay. So he shows up only with the car.
The truck.
Sorry.
Yes.
The truck. Okay, so if you're having a fight already at Joe's video about the scrapping, you haven't even gone home yet to see the note, have you? So already at Joe's video, you suspected apparently that he hadn't gone scrapping. So the note in that case didn't have anything to do with reminding you about the fight,
Right?
okay? And it's possible he could have gone scrapping and still gone home before you, isn't it?
Yes,
Because you don't remember what time you got home that day, do you?
correct.
And you don't even remember if you spent the night at Zach's house that day or you spent the night at your mom's house that night, do you?
Mm-mm.
No. You don't remember what you had for dinner that day, do you?
Yes.
I thought on direct you testified.
Because actually, when the conversation we was watching the news and the conversation come up about her being missing, and Zach said that they'd never find her. I remember what I was cooking that night and eating, and so that was the day that she'd come up missing.
So you're saying this very day now that that it comes up on the news and he says they'll never find her is the very day that she disappeared?
It was either that day or the day after.
Oh, but you don't remember. So now
No.
you don't remember. So now you don't know for sure what you were
I just
cooking
remember
for dinner.
specific details that stuck out to me that didn't seem right.
Okay. Because you left some of these important things out, you didn't mention.
You
I
got a
can't get
question
this.
rather than a statement?
I have a leading question for my cross-examination.
I can't get that back in there, I'm sorry.
You have not been charged with lying to any of the TBI agents, even though you've changed your story multiple times, have you?
No, I'm going to object. There's not such a charge. She
There's
wasn't under
obstruction of justice. There is obstruction of
You
justice.
can ask
and
her if she's been charged.
You've not been
She
charged
said
with.
she has not been charged.
Okay. No further questions.
No further questions.
All right, step in. Please don't discuss your testimony with anyone. You're free to go. We're at 5:25. I think it's time to break for the evening. Be ready to go first thing in the morning. I hope we can pick up the pace at that time. It's been a whole lot of repetitive, and I want council to concentrate and try to focus to avoid redundancy. Follow the admonitions I gave you at the outset. Leave your notebooks here. Be secured overnight. Hope you do as well as you can do tonight, okay? Thank you.